Boy admitted to pulling the trigger. Simon Scorpion Jalwali denied ordering the killing, and Foster Nechungolo dismissed a cover-up. They appeared briefly at the Protea Magistrates Court today.
An adored child with a big heart, murdered in cold blood on August the 26th. And 3 police officers implicated.
20 state against Scorpion, Simon Jalivane and 2 others.
They intend pleading not guilty to premeditated murder.
The public prosecutor is instantly.
But this indictment is a stark reminder of the charges they face.
Count number 1 is against accused number 1, 2, and 3. It's murder. And count number 2. It's unlawful possession of ammunition. This is against accused number 2 only. And count number 3, it's unlawful possession of ammunition. This count is against accused number 2 and 3. And count number 4 is defeating the ends of justice. This count is against accused 1, 2, and 3. And count number 5 is that of perjury. This count is against accused number 2 only.
Court, please.
And the highly anticipated trial date finally decided.
The matter is therefore transferred to the High Court sitting at Johannesburg. It will be for trial on the 19th of March.
But before the trial begins, an opening salvo by the defense.
The state is transferring it, and when you get for pre-trial, there's no docket disclosure given to anyone. Then we come there and we've got to ask for disclosure again. And so this is what happened. This is the way it works these days. I don't know how, but so be it. If I can get disclosure today, then I can at least tell the court where we go, what witnesses we need, what, etc., etc.
Your Worship, yes, I believe the defense will be discovered in the High Court, Your Worship, and they'll have to liaise with the counsel, yes, who's assigned in the matter, Your Worship.
For the family, the search for justice has been taxing.
It was taking a toll on us because of coming to court every month, postponement, and it was like a rolling coaster. But when I heard about today that we are going to High Court, it just put a smile on my face to know that there will be justice served.
There's no pain that you people can understand here. I don't know, it does not matter, you know. I want justice for my son, for my grandchild. That's all I'm looking for, you know. Those guys have killed my boy, and that matters most to me. Absolutely. I want justice for Nathaniel.
Please, the court.
Jalvani and White Boy remain in custody. Nechungolo's bail has been extended. Mareketla Matlabe, SABC News, Protea Magistrates Court.
Is enough being done to protect the mental health and well-being of our police officers? Last Saturday, a warrant officer shot himself outside a Cape Town church while a funeral was being held for a fellow officer. The officer survived the shooting. The incident has highlighted mental health challenges facing our men and women in blue. Monique Mortlock Malchas tells us the story.
Between April 2020 and March 2021, 30 police officers died by suicide. This number climbed to 37 between April 2021 and January 2022. One community activist who works closely with SAPS members believes the real figure is much, much higher.
The figure that I have of officers that I've dealt with and families that have reached out to me is 93.
Last month, the constable in Ashton shot 2 officers, killing one before turning the gun on himself. In August, another young officer committed suicide while on duty in Cape Town.
His family got no support from SAPS. They did not go and visit the family and offer them trauma counseling. Instead, what they did, they withheld information that could have assisted the family in emotionally getting closure as to why their son did this.
Last week, a warrant officer and bodyguard to Community Safety MEC Regan Allen shot himself but survived. These incidents come as no surprise to those familiar with the enormous pressure that officers have to face.
You know, the job needs to go on and it needs to, but I think we need to realize that there is a problem. Why did it happen? Why is it that I found a member that needed to take that drastic measures? Something is not right then. It might have been a personal issue, yes, but if you're not going to go into it, you're not going to know. It might be a victimization issue at the station.
The Employee Health and Wellness Program offers psychological services to SAPS members and families. But experts, activists and those in the police service argue this is inadequate.
The public service system is not enough. I do believe that it can be made better so that when you see an advertisement on the Sunday newspaper, it's not like, it doesn't look like a joke that anyone would want to be paid 320,000 rand per annum to work as a psychologist in the police force, and you think you can attract the workforce. Let us take it seriously.
Earlier this year, Police Minister Beki Cele said interventions were being put in place to help officers. The comments follow a rise in suicides over the last 2 years. Monique Mortlock, Malgas, Cape Town.
New forest, leafy, serene. A small village in Bushbuck Ridge. Smoke would pierce through the air. Police tape and blue lights circling their home. Their charred remains scattered inside their 2 bedrooms. That's if the state's case is anything to go by. A mother and her 5 children were supposed to have been consumed by flame. Joyce says she had received a strange call in the early hours of that morning. It shocked her when suddenly, during the day, police arrived at her home in the company of her sister. Joyce lived in fear in the subsequent months. 3 years later, she finds herself on the witness stand, doing what she never thought she would do, testifying against her own sister. Joyce and her mother live in the same street. Separate is their views on this matter. Her mother refused to speak to us, but kept on referring to how heartbroken she was by this matter. The old lady testified in her daughter's defense in the High Court last month. The laughter of her youngest son clouds the atmosphere at her home. He runs around oblivious to the tragedy that has rocked his family. This is a safe haven, his mother says, away from anything or anyone who could hurt the young man. To this day, Joyce prays for her sister Rosemary's change of heart. For News from Africa on Channel 405, I'm Lean Damnisi in Bushbuck Ridge.
All right, back home, the mental health of South African police officials is once again in the spotlight. The Independent Policing Union of South Africa, or IPUSA, says poor decisions by senior managers are to blame for the high rates of suicide. Police officers have also, of course, been involved in crimes. An officer recently killed his girlfriend, a nursing assistant. To discuss, we're joined by the General Secretary of the Union, Mpho Kwinika. Thank you for being with us. Firstly, can you outline how high the suicide rate is and what the mental health issues among officers are at the moment?
Good afternoon, South Africans. Yes, we have got a very serious problem in policy. I think the situations that we have, which has got to do with command and control, it is having a terrible impact on men, women in blue. these issues we have been talking about for the past 30 years. And it is even worse today because the current management of the police are looking after their survival in policing as opposed to take care of the interests of South Africans and the interests of the policemen and women in blue. So these issues need to be taken care of seriously, or else South Africans are going to continue and have the problems of not being taken care of by the system itself.
How are they not taking care of their subordinates? What should police managers be doing that they are not doing?
Look, the police have a system that we call the Employee Health and Wellness Program. This program its responsibility is to make sure that police officials' mental health is taken care of. This department comprises of the psychological section, the social section, and even the chaplain services. These people knows exactly what is it that is required of them to look after the interests of the policemen and women in blue. Let me just give you an example. Police officials on daily basis are confronted by serious issues which happens at work and serious issues which happens in their families. When they move from one environment like family to a working environment, they must find a system that is readily available to make sure that their state of mind is prepared to deal with issues of both at work and even at their families. Currently, police officials are working, they are left to fend for themselves. You will see what has happened now. I think yesterday, the last person to commit suicide so far, it is a captain in KZN. You will hear that it's something that has got to do with the management of policing. If you have what we call the MBO principles and the MBEs, the MBO principles says management by objectives. Anything that you do, you have to do it by the book, because the members who are trained to follow the book. If you change the book, it confuses the members. So we are saying as IPOSA that these people are not getting that support which is mentioned in the book. We need to go back to the basics.
So give me some tangible examples here. If you are a police officer, say you're involved in a traumatic event, at work maybe you've been involved in crime fighting, or at home something terrible has happened, how easy is it to access that counselling? Because you say there are psychological services. So how are managers blocking staff from accessing those services, or are they just not enough?
It is the issue that has got to do with the ranking system of the police. You know, if you go and study the relationship between the police officials in Australia, Canada, you will see that they have outsourced this product. This product, police officers in that environment, they may access it in hospitals and other environments that are made available to them. In the police in South Africa, you have to confront the employee health and wellness program, so that they are in a position to understand exactly what has happened to your mind. Let me give you an example. The issue of the debriefing sessions. Immediately when you are involved in any traumatic environment, there are departments which are deployed to you and your family as well, and the colleagues who are part of you, to come and give you the debriefing sessions. We have got a very serious problem with that department, because currently, if you are wearing a rank and the officer that comes to you to come and give you counseling, and the issues that you are faced with are coming from the police themselves, and that police officer has got a rank that is even higher than the rank of the person that is coming to you, you are completely going to reject the services that are being given to you. So we, as the independent policing union, we are saying de-link, detach the issue of the rank to the profession itself and allow the police officials to choose where to go when they are confronted with the mental health problems.
Yeah, well, it makes absolute sense what you're saying, that people may feel scared to give information. It could be used against them or be used to undermine them in their careers, or they just don't trust that something will happen if it's a problem within the police. So what can be done about your calls? Have you received any comeback?
We are continuing to engage management on this one. And I can tell you, South Africans, the police are here to provide safety and security to all inhabitants. They must do this without fear, favor, nor even prejudice. When they are busy doing this, we as unions have got a role to play. Our role is to ensure that the environment is conducive for them to can work in. We are engaging not only with the National Commissioner of Police, even the Minister of Police, to make sure that these resources are made available. It is not a favor. It is a must that this should take place, that these institutions should be made available, the services should be made available to these police officers. But here is another thing. The members of the Employee Health and Wellness Program, they are not being taken care of. No one takes their reports seriously. Members goes out there and say, here is the issue, I've got a family problem, I need to be transferred out of this environment. And you find that management refuses to allow these people to go there or even make a decision contrary to the decision that is made by these professions. These things need to change, and the commanders must stay away from this profession and allow these people to do their work.
All right, calling for more mental health care. Thank you very much for your time tonight. The General Secretary of the Independent Policing Union of South Africa.
Police officer Kaylene Whiteboy's multiple confessions have taken centre stage in the Nathaniel Julies murder trial. She and two other officers stand accused of killing the Eldorado Park teenager in August of last year. Our Newsroom Africa reporter Zikona Chwana filed this report from the High Court sitting in Palm Ridge.
Did Kaylene Whiteboy confess to firing the shot that killed Nathaniel Julies? If she did so, did she do so under duress? So far, 3 witnesses have testified about an alleged admission by the accused. First, it was Magistrate Teresa Swart from the Protea Glen Magistrates Court, then Colonel Rulani Sambo from the Eldorado Park Police Station, and Hlanganiso Ndlovu from the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, who told the Johannesburg High Court that Whiteboy was eager to tell the truth about the incident. Magistrate Swart testified that Whiteboy said her colleagues wanted her to lie, and that accused number 2, Simon Scorpio Gyalmvane, threatened both her and her family. All witnesses have testified about Whiteboy's alleged eagerness to speak and have told the court that they warned the constable of her rights and about the implications of what she says in court.
Number 1 said, I'm the one who shot the deceased. Then I asked her, how did it happen? And then I said, did you aim at the deceased, or the shotgun just fire itself, or what happened? Because if you aim at the deceased now, you will be charged on murder, and if it's a mistake, you will be charged with culpable homicide.
She looked okay, she was adamant, wanting to abandon herself, still even stopping her to talk about what she was trying to tell us, what transpired. Because she told us that, you know what, I want to tell the truth because accused number 2 wants to put under the bus. So she wanted to tell us everything. She was never true. She was not traumatized, my lord. If she was, I wouldn't have continued at all.
Whiteboy's legal team says she plans to testify that she was encouraged to confess so that she could become a state witness and keep her job. IPED denies promising her anything. Whiteboy's legal team has insisted that she was not in the right frame of mind. Her lawyer even went as far as to say IPED changed his client's testimony. Friday is the 20th day of this trial. The matter was initially sat down for 20 days. The court has already conceded that it's going to need more time. With each session, Nathaniel Julius' family takes the front row, at times visibly pained by having to relive the ordeal. All they are eager for is for justice to be served. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Zikona Chona in Palm Ridge.
All right, good to have you with us. Rosemary Nomia Ndlovu. Remember her? Remember the name? I'm sure you will. Dubbed as the most dangerous woman in the country. She left us all stunned at her murder trial. She was handed 6 life terms for killing 5 of her own relatives and a partner, all for insurance money. And now she is back in court as well. Let's get the details. Slindela Masakane at the Kempton Park Magistrates Court for us this morning. Slindela, hello to you. And now I understand facing a new court charge as well. What's this all about?
Certainly so. It seems that the court woes for Nomia Rosemary Ndlovu continue. She is facing fresh charges of conspiracy to commit murders, and this is in relation to 2 police officers. Back when she was arrested in March 2018, these police officers, that is Colonel Ntipe Buluko as well as Sergeant Bennett Mabunda, learned of a plot to have them killed by Ms. Ndlovu, and so now the prosecuting authority is bringing those charges against her. She's also facing another charge of conspiracy to commit murder in terms of plotting to kill the husband of one of her colleagues. However, that particular matter, or that husband rather, was alerted before that murder could take place. And of course, you know that Nomia at this point is serving 6 life sentences in jail, in prison rather, and she'll be coming here to the Kempton Park Magistrates Court to be charged with these new charges. And we know that at this point we are expecting her to make an appearance just after 9 a.m. this morning, but it seems as though despite these 6 life sentences, she is facing more charges, and the National Prosecuting Authority saying that they believe in this matter they once more have a strong case against her, and that despite the 6 life sentences that she's facing, that she should be prosecuted on these new charges as well.
What's going on, guys? Make sure if you get a chance you like, share, and subscribe. All of my links are down in the description box, as well as the pinned post. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as become a subscriber or submit a donation to my Patreon, Venmo, or PayPal. Now, this is really, I can't really say that it's a story as in a singular story about a single issue, because it covers a very broad spectrum, and it is, I wouldn't even say a microcosm, I would say probably more like a macrocosm of the overall issue as to just how dysfunctional the black diaspora is. No matter where you find people of Nubian descent throughout the world, I mean, this is really a macrocosm of that. And oftentimes, as in this case, it's really hard, especially in the beginning, it's really hard to put into words just how much turmoil and chaos and really tragedy is involved when you go to analyze just how behind the bell curve the black race the black race truly is. Now, if you know anything about the Brian Too Bad TV Salon show, I, especially in recent times, the older that I've gotten, I make it my business to only do stories not only that interest me, but that I put a significant amount of research into. And sometimes I do so much research on a topic that I'm interested in producing content on, whether that's a community post, a blog, or a video, that I become overwhelmed with the amount of content that I have. Like, you know, it gets to a point where I have so much information gathered, it's like, okay, I have 1,000 pieces in a puzzle box. Now all I have to do is put this shit together. Well, you know, that's easier said than done. You know, for many of you that have listened to me over the years, you may have grown frustrated, you know, hearing me say, well, this is about to come out, you know, the Autopsy series, or, you know, Climbing Mount Dusty, or Black Zebras, White Lions. How many people remember that one, right? And I never produce it, or I don't produce it in a timely fashion. That's because, unlike other creators, because I have a very wide imagination, and I have a very broad cognizance of what exists in this world, I have a tendency to overly attach myself to a subject, where I gather so much information that it becomes extremely difficult to get it all off paper or off of a video or an image file and compile it into a video project production. Okay? And sometimes I'm able, you know, with my busy schedule of running from state to state and running errands locally. Sometimes I can push myself through it, like my last video, the Shalonda Lofton video, which took a month and a half to do. Other times I get started on it, but then I'm unable to complete it, and I say, well, I'll come back and I'll finish it later. The problem is something else will come along that will interest me, and I'll kind of put it off to the side, and I'll say, well, I'll get back to this. And between that and running a business and running errands and just living life, it kind of gets lost in the fray. Okay, this particular subject was one of those. As a matter of fact, there's a term for it. Hollywood calls it production hell. If you look up production hell, also known as development hell, it's described as a production. It can be cinematic, it can be theatric, it can be digital, it can be audible, it can be legible. Any content creation, it doesn't have to be a major film studio, but any intended or intent to produce content that stays in the developmental stage for a long period of time before it is actually posted, before it is actually published. And unfortunately, between the way my mind works and with just so much shit going on this planet, a lot of projects that I've wanted to complete fall into that category. I don't have a crew of people that are working on these projects with me. It's just me, right? And it gets to a point where you see something, you're really interested in something before that, and it gets really hard to just stay focused on this one thing. Okay? But then you'll wake up 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months later thinking about, man, I got to get back to that. This topic, this production came close to being one of those topics, and the reason why is because it was one of those topics that I stumbled upon by accident. I was actually looking for this. I was looking for information on this African IG thought that died in a car accident after leaving a club with another bimbo and some African rapper, and I was interested in finding information on that. And while I was in the process of looking up that information, you know how Google is. They will, you'll type something in the search engine and they'll maybe, but not all the time, bring up a series of images or videos or links related to what you're searching for. But then they'll also bring up stuff that they think, but not all the time, that they believe or their supercomputers analyze to be similar to the topic that you're looking up. So like, say, and sometimes it's not even something that's search specific. Sometimes it's based on, image or similarity to the story. Like if you type in black woman or black teen girl killed by her boyfriend, and you put that in the search engine, well, when you click on that, okay, and you go to images, it'll come up with, like recent stories of young black women that were caught up in domestic violence situations that ended fatal. But then it will also list, other stories and images, if you keep clicking, that have nothing to do with a black bitch being killed by somebody, or instead of being killed by her boyfriend, got killed by another, bimbo, or it'll be just like a black female's LinkedIn page that isn't dead, or it'll be a black female that's a model, or a black female that's on Twitter that's still alive, but all of these images are similar to one another. So the further you go into the search, the more you get lost in the Google's supercomputers analysis of what data is relevant, even though a lot of it isn't relevant to what you're looking for past a certain point, which is why most people will tell you, especially if you're using just Google, which is a very basic, unadvanced search engine, even though it's one of the better browsers out there. If you're doing like any type of deep research, it's probably best to use a different tool, because past the first half a dozen to maybe 10 links of whatever search specific thing you're looking for, you're likely not going to find what you're looking for. The links are just going to become less and less relevant. So anyway, I'm searching for this dead IG bot on Google, and I'm seeing some links, and I'm reading a story, and then I see this image. I have a thing where when I'm searching for something, I look, usually, except with a few exceptions to the rule, I look by image first, not by link. And the reason for that is because it's easier to sift through the bullshit that Google does by looking at things that are image specific, if you know specifically who and what you're looking for, as opposed to clicking on a link and then seeing oh, this is just a gossip page, or it's just a fucking fake website loaded with all kinds of malware and spyware, or they have the story buried at somewhere in a link like a needle in a haystack underneath all these other stories on this news page. If you go to images and you see who and or what you're looking for, you can click on that and then click visit that page, and you're more likely to find what you're looking for. But underneath that visit page link, when you click on a specific image, you're going to see a drop down menu of several other images, okay, some of which might pique your interest. So I saw this one specific image of this black female in a police uniform, and because I had seen movies like Safe House with Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds, I knew immediately that this was a South African police uniform. Now, South Africa, unlike the United States, and like a lot of underdeveloped countries, South Africa only has one primary police force, which is the South African Police Service, the SAPS, which was spawned originally from the so-called Dutch Watch, which was a paramilitary organization that was formed by settlers in the Cape Province in 1655. When they came and colonized the southern region of Africa, like they did, like the English did in North America, and pushed all the indigenous people, in this case Africans, off their fucking land and declared it as their own, subject for another video. But South Africa only has a national police service. There are different branches. It has an intelligence unit. It has a version where it's conjoined with Interpol, and then it has something called LEAP, which stands for Law Enforcement Advancement Plan, which is an initiative of the Western Cape government, and they operate only within the city of Cape Town, and their job is to provide additional specialized assistance to the South African Police Service, which, as you might imagine, in such an underdeveloped country, is overwhelmed with dealing with crime. And more specifically, they conduct operations to search for dangerous weapons and drugs. But all of that is under the directive of the South African Police Service, which is headquartered in Pretoria. And the South African Police Service is divided into South Africa's 9 provinces. Each province has its own director, its own chief, but they all answer to the national director, or as they call it, commissioner, headquartered at the headquarters in Pretoria. Now, South Africa, between 2006 and this year, 2022, they beefed up their main police service, which is abbreviated as SAPS. That's the abbreviation for South African Police Service, from 121,000 people in the service to 193,000 people. Now, when you consider that they only have one national police service with under 250,000 people, yet they have 60 million people, with 53% of those people unemployed. More than half the country is unemployed. Okay, this is going to be, as you will see as this goes forward, this is going to be a very relevant part of this subject matter in a moment. But getting back to this bitch that I found in the Google search engine in the South African police uniform. So like I said, Google is a search engine that calculates data by filtering through digital similarities in, files based on what you're searching for. Sometimes those files are completely irrelevant, but based on image or based on story, it will put up those things in the search queue when you're searching for something specific. And so underneath this dead IG thought, I see this black female police officer. So I just get curious and I click on it. And when I click on it, there is a headline underneath the image that says something like, police bitch kills her husband, baby, and then herself. So I'm like, whoa, and this is why I hate this is why research is really a love and hate thing for somebody like me, because it just becomes a constant stream of information that both you do need, that you don't need, but then in the information that you don't need, you will find things that kind of pique your interest, and then you'll get off of one thing and start looking at something else. And before you know it, you're immersed in this whirlwind of gathering data on a separate issue that had nothing to do with what you were originally looking for. It's fucking crazy. So I'm looking and I see this story about this black female who was a cop. She was a South African police service cop stationed at Imbeling near Secunda, who was identified as 28-year-old Findile Mabina, who had moved out of her husband's house after a series of domestic disputes, right? And at some point, she found out that her husband, who she had not fully divorced from, but had separated from, was seeing another woman. So she found out who this woman was. I don't know if she used her connections in the police force or what happened, but she found out who this other bitch was, started following her, and on February the 13th, 2021, she followed this woman to her husband's home that she once shared with her husband, and watched this woman go in the house and actually waited for an hour outside of her husband's house while he was in there, likely, banging this other chick that he was with, that came to the house. Then she waited there and observed her husband and this other woman come out, get into his car, like they were preparing to drive somewhere, like go on a date or something. And unbeknownst to her husband, his police bitch wife, she pulled around the back of the house, broke into the back of the house as she saw this other broad coming back toward the house while he was outside with the engine running, waiting on her to go. I guess he gave her the house keys to go pick up something out the house and come back out. You know how you leave your house getting ready to go somewhere, you forget something, so you run back in the house or send somebody else in to get it. Well, that's what the side chick was doing. By the time the side chick came into the house, the police bitch who was off duty at the time but had her service pistol with her, which is a South African version of a Beretta Model 92 9mm semi-automatic pistol. She was waiting in the kitchen for this bitch. When the bitch came in, when the side chick came in, she held the side chick hostage. But instead of killing the side chick, she forced the side chick to text her husband to tell him to come inside, coerce him to come into the house. So the side chick, not wanting to die, she texted the dude to come in. He came in back in his house, behind the side chick, only to find his crazy ass wife that he had separated from standing there in the kitchen. Now he's holding both of them hostage. The dude, he goes to make a move and he makes contact with his wife that he separated from, and he tries to, I guess, go for the gun, try to get the gun out of her hand. Now during this scuffle, the side chick, she gets little on them motherfuckers. She just leaves the scene. She sees this as an opportunity. She darts. She runs for her fucking life. And it's lucky for her that she did, because the wife, she shoots and kills her husband. Shoots him one time, he drops. Then she stands over him, shoots him several more times. But that wasn't good enough. Turns out this crazy ass bitch actually brought the couple's daughter with her to her little stakeout, her little off-duty stakeout of her husband that she is separated from. She brought a 5-month-old child with her that was waiting in the car. After she shot and mortally wounded her husband, she went out to the car and shot their 5-month-old baby. Shot the 5-month-old baby. Baby didn't do nothing. Adorable little baby, poor thing. Shot the baby, and then she killed herself. Now, the side chick, obviously she called emergency services. They came on the scene, found the police bitch, Findili Mabina, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But the husband and the baby, though critically wounded, they were barely clinging to life. They were both the husband and the baby were transported to a hospital, and they died. So I'm like, holy, I'm looking at this first story, y'all, because shit gets deeper. Like Denzel Washington said, ironically playing a crooked cop in Training Day. Shit gets deeper. But I'm looking at this first story, and I'm like, holy shit. It's blowing me back, because what I'm starting to think about now is I, over the course of the last 2 years, have expressed with you guys on several occasions my concern about this new recruitment process, this new generation recruitment process in American law enforcement that includes all of these ratchet, mentally unstable, thug dick loving weave rats and ghetto gaggers, that when you go to the, I'm not saying that there aren't black female police officers that are professional and do their jobs professionally, but when you look at a lot of the black females that they are hiring, particularly in these inner city municipalities like Detroit, like Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, a lot of these bitches are nothing but tatted up, club hopping, promiscuous hood whores that are no different than any other fucking hood whore that you see in the hood. And listen, man, people say, well, you can't judge a book by its cover. Yeah, in this case, and in many cases, you actually fucking can. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I ain't gonna call it a fucking moose. And the fact that we have so many stories of black hood thoughts or ratchet chicks, these queens, which y'all call these BWs, getting caught up in all kinds of scandalous, dysfunctional ghetto nonsense. From that incident way back like almost 10 years ago, where they caught this black Philadelphia police bitch. She was organizing an illegal fight club between her children and other kids on the block in some ghetto Philadelphia neighborhood, and she wound up getting arrested after she tried to pick a fight with this bigger black bitch that wound up whooping her ass and had the nerve to call for police backup while she was off duty. That's how she got caught, setting up the illegal fight club up to these females that are prison guards that are fucking these inmates, some of them getting pregnant by these inmates. There was a case where this fucking Memphis female cop, she was caught in a rap music, she was seen in a rap music video with some niggas that had multiple felonies on their fucking record. And most municipalities, they have policies, while it's not illegal, they have policies that bar their law enforcement officers from having any kinds of intimate relationships with convicted felons. But you see multiple cases of these bitches, that wear the badge, that are, getting in trouble, either by breaking the law or being associated with people who break the law, okay? And in some cases getting whacked by these thug type dudes that they're fucking around with. Some of these bitches, I mean, you know, y'all remember the Rampart scandal back, you know, in the late 90s, shortly after O.J. Simpson and Rodney King, where there were like 100 officers that got charged, and some of them were convicted of corruption that were in the LAPD, and a lot of these dudes worked security for death row, and they were mingling with, you know, Bloods and Crips gang members. It was just a fucking mess. One cop, he was convicted of armed robbery. It was just the Rampart scandal was a whole fucking mess. Some of these fucking cops were even implicated in the murder of Biggie Smalls. They made a movie about it with Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker not too long ago. Well, that Rampart scandal was just I realize now, is just a microcosm of a much broader problem in American law enforcement. I mean, as if we don't have enough problems with, you know, the issue of racial profiling, where these cracker cops, they see one black dude and they just assume that he's like every other dumbass nigger that they've dealt with. That's what really causes that. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's not necessarily that they're all inherently racist. It's that they deal with so many dumbass niggas. They think it, you know, it gets to a point where they think it's okay to just treat any black person they come across as the last 10 niggas that they dealt with that were dysfunctional. And, you know, they become almost indifferent to the fact that not every black person is the fucking same just because we all have the same skin color or even wear the same clothing. That we are, just like them, we are individuals. Like, I don't look at every fucking white person and think they're trailer trash, but I know trailer trash when I fucking see it, okay? Just like I know a nigga from a regular black person when I see it, right? So it's bad enough with, you know, just law enforcement in general and how it interacts with black America. But then you have, especially in these liberal controlled cities like my hometown of Chicago, that are just whole ass incubators of niggerdom. You have these city leaders that are encouraging recruitment of people that are from the community. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that except for the fact that a lot of these people from the community, so to speak, have the same or a similar mentality to the fucking criminals that are wreaking havoc on the community, even if they're not directly involved in that shit themselves. And so what you wind up having is a lot of cases where police officers, individual police officers, wind up getting caught, you know, doing dirt for the gangs or moving drugs around for the gangs. You know, they've made several movies about it. One of Chadwick Boseman's last films, 21 Bridges, was about that type of police corruption that actually has happened in real life, where, you know, 8 NYPD cops, they come up on a winery that, you know, is a front for a drug smuggling operation, and, you know, they're getting broke off some money to transport the dope dealers drugs around the city. And their chief, you know, he rationalizes it at the end of the movie as, you know, as a veteran cop, you learn that you're never going to stop the drugs. Somebody's going to be making money off this shit. You can lock up as many of these motherfuckers as you want. Somebody's going to profit off of this because it's in demand, so we might as well get our little piece of cake too. But in reality, that's not just a movie. That shit actually happens. It's not just, you know, the black communities where this happened. This happened, you know, when the Italian mob was in its prime. It was known that, you know, cops that came from like Hell's Kitchen or Little Italy in New York. They were working for the mob. You have Hispanic cops, particularly in Chicago and even out in LA, that have been caught, doing dirty work, including drug smuggling or being involved in gang activity with Latino organized crime syndicates, including, drug cartels rooted in Mexico and Colombia. So there is a lot of, besides, just the code of silence, in law enforcement that's very hard to break, like when a cop sees another cop doing something that they don't have no business doing, including to another person, and they don't tell for fear of reprisals. You have a lot of corruption and a lot of people that were poorly screened before they became cops and should have never gotten a badge and a gun in the first fucking place. You see a lot of this across the board, okay? And it's even worse in other underdeveloped countries like South Africa, right? And so, recently, like within the last 5 years, especially, I and a lot of you have been noticing this influx, especially in the age of social media, where everything's so visible now, where you see all of these bitches that, these aren't, classy types that are getting these jobs. These are hood rats, dude. I remember there was this one dumb bitch, this little light-skinned Korean Gaines looking yellow bone bitch that was a cop somewhere. I don't know where she was from, but she posted this TikTok video talking about, making a skit about, how when she pulls over a car full of pookie thugs, how she really wants to approach them. Like, she put on like her hood rat vernacular, like, oh, he cute, and she started flirting with them and stuff. And I'm looking at this shit and I'm like, these bitches are immature because they're advertising themselves as thoughts, aka ghetto whores, on social media, while donning the fact that they're cops as well. And the thing that always gets me is, it's like, don't their departments have policies against this? Like, if you want to be a thought if you want to be a social media thought, you do that in your off time, fine. But don't bring our uniform. Don't, drag us into your silly shit, okay? Because when you put on that uniform, you're representing the entire city of whatever. You're representing the fact that you're supposed to be a civil servant of this jurisdiction. But these bitches just blatantly do this, and just like the ignorant attitude having ghetto ass, repugnant ass black bitches in customer service at like McDonald's or Walmart when they cop an attitude because they gotta come to work or they're late or they're disrespectful to a customer, nothing of serious consequence in most cases happens to these black bitches that have civil servant jobs like cop, or in some cases I've even seen these bitches as district judges. And that's a frightening one. So we've touched on this subject here in the United States, but I had no idea just how broad this problem was with law enforcement on a global scale. Okay? I had no idea. In South Africa, after the end of apartheid, okay, it was just assumed that that Nelson Mandela's fake ass rainbow nation was going to bring everybody together, and blacks were going to conjoin with whites, and the black majority, they were going to use the systems that were already in place to bring South Africa, up out of the Stone Ages, so to speak, and become a competitive, economic, diverse super hub of the continent. But in fact, the exact reverse happened. Okay? When the Dutch left, by and large, when most of them left Africa and took the money and resources that they stole from Africa with them, okay, they put these puppets from Nelson Mandela and down in charge that were just as corrupt as they were. Okay, now Nelson Mandela, to his credit, he wasn't corrupt, but he was a puppet. Okay, but everybody that came after Nelson Mandela, and particularly this Jacob Zuma minstrel, were just corrupt as fuck. They basically got in office and put, their wealthy black cronies that were, the aging ass kissers of the apartheid white government that, got fat with profits off of serving their masters in positions of authority after apartheid ended. Okay, and they had the same mentality that the white motherfuckers did, and shit just traveled downstream from the president's office on down. One corrupt motherfucker appoints another corrupt motherfucker, and then that corrupt motherfucker appoints other corrupt motherfuckers beneath him to cover his ass, and then the bottom feeder corrupt motherfuckers, they just enlist a bunch of poor folks from respective regions around South Africa to do all the grit work. And when the balloon goes up on the corruption, the only motherfuckers that get burned in most cases are the lower echelon corrupt motherfuckers and some of the poor folks that they enlisted as civil servants in government. So basically, that's what you have. That coupled with the rise in crime after apartheid, because, the Dutch Boers didn't have their foot on the necks of these Negroes anymore. But there was the same level of poverty and displacement as there was during apartheid. Crime plus corruption, well, you can't even say crime times corruption, or put it this way, because corruption is usually crime. Political corruption times street crime and lack of developmental opportunities basically just exposed what a complete fraud Mandela's Rainbow Nation truly was. So the reason why that is relevant is because when you look at, just like over here in these these corrupted democratic municipalities that are also led by the usually often black and politically corrupt. Okay, in South Africa, you have people who don't have the public interest at heart when they create policy. Like, for example, who to hire into the National Police Service to, patrol and service the communities. And a lot of these people are poorly trained. There are some reports out that say some of them aren't trained at all. They're even more poorly screened. And as you see in most, places where, there's a high level of poverty and strife, a lot of these people have mental issues. And while not restricted to, it is very prevalent in the female members. This fact is very prevalent in the female members of the South African Police Service. There were a couple of studies that were done a few years ago that showed that female South African police officers recorded more incidents of depression and feeling stressed both on and off duty than their male counterparts. They also felt disrespected and inferior to their male counterparts, which they claim added to their stress levels. This is exacerbated by the fact that, as I said again, there was another report that came out that said a lot of these motherfuckers aren't even trained, or they're very poorly trained. There's this, the South African Police Service, they require that each police officer, once they are inducted into the service, they have to get a firearms proficiency certificate, which means they have to go through a training course and test it. Well, what I told y'all, the bottom feeder corrupt motherfuckers that are over, you know, each particular station or province, they hire these motherfuckers, give them a badge and a gun, and in most cases they start working before they even get their firearms proficiency certification. There was a report that came out after an audit a couple of years ago that like 43,000, or it was 40-something thousand of the 193,000 members of the South African Police Service either have expired firearms proficiency certifications or no fucking firearms proficiency certifications at all. Another report came out that showed that said that 33% of all members of the South African Police Service reported having a mental breakdown at some point while on duty. And about 47% of these motherfuckers, that personal issues that they deal with off duty sometimes can affect their judgment, or has affected their judgment in dealing with situations while on duty. Multiple police commissioners have been arrested, like, and charged, like Marilyn Mosby, you know, the idiot DA in Baltimore that got caught stealing and using COVID money to buy a summer home in Florida and lying like she was she was unemployed. What an idiot bitch. How could a prosecutor be that goddamn stupid? But anyway, multiple police commissioners have been arrested and charged with corruption. So what you come to realize real quick when it comes to the South African Police Service is that it, as I said in the beginning of the video, is that it's really just a macrocosm of the broader problem that is South Africa led by black South Africans. It's a mess. It is a fucking mess. It's a cesspool of chaos and madness. It's chaos, corruption, and madness is what it is. I mean, when you look at the overall scheme of things. So upon analyzing this, it is not surprising when you see the number of stories that I came across of South African police lady cops not only committing crime, but committing violent criminal acts, usually domestic related. Felinde Mobina was just the first case that I came across. You know, the bitch murdering her husband and child and then herself. That was just the first case that I came across. Then, after reading her article, I back out of that article, and like I told y'all, Google search engine, it calculates certain similarities of data points and tries, sometimes it's better at this than others, it tries to generate other data that's similar to the data that you're looking at. And so after I back out of the Felinde Mobina case, I said, oh man, I got to find out more information about this. I come across another picture of another police bitch, you know, that's taking a selfie of herself in her little South African police service uniform. And I click on that, and at first I mistaked it for Felinde Mobina, but turns out this was a different police bitch, a different South African police bitch that murdered her boyfriend and claimed self-defense. And this is a completely different case that happened back in 2019. It was a police bitch that was stationed in the Eastern Cape, who was also a constable named Nangesmo Jayaya, 30 years old. She was stationed at the NU1 police station in Dansani, who admitted to killing her boyfriend after a heated domestic incident in August of 2019. Now, the boyfriend, 33-year-old Anile Veli, she had initially accused of assaulting her during a domestic argument that turned into domestic violence. Okay, she claimed that he attacked her, but police investigators, I guess after looking at the evidence, they didn't buy her story, and so they arrested her and charged her with 1 count of murder. As she was taken away to the very police station that she was stationed at to be questioned, and keep in mind all of this happened while she was off duty, the family of the man who was killed, Anile Veli, 2 of his sisters came to the police bitch's house, Nangesmo Jayaya, and burned her fucking house down while she was in police custody in retaliation for killing their brother, right? So then a neighbor which witnessed the arson, they called police, and police went to the brother-sister's house, the murdered brother-sister's house, and arrested his 2 sisters for burning the police bitch's house down to kill their brother. Now, in court, this police bitch, Nangesmo Jayaya, she pleaded not guilty, of course, to murdering her boyfriend, and she was able to post bail. After she posted bail, she was confronted by some reporters that asked her what happened. She said, quote, "I don't owe anyone any explanation," and then something to the tune of, "People can think whatever they want about me, but my life was in danger, blah, blah, blah." When asked how she was attacked by her boyfriend, she wouldn't explain how she was attacked. The family of the murdered man, Anile Veli, they felt a large bit of resentment as the brother of the man that was killed admitted to a reporter that visited the family home that 2 of his siblings were in jail on arson charges, while the bitch that murdered him was out on bail. And of course, this news coming out of Africa and only getting this information through African online news outlets, it's very hard to see any additional developments in this case. It just basically said that she was arrested after killing him back in August of 2019, and she was released on bail and said she didn't owe anybody any explanation. And I haven't seen any updates to the case or about the case since then, unfortunately. But it's assuming if she was charged that she's going to or did go on trial. I don't really know what happened. But if her own police colleagues didn't believe her that it was self-defense and they immediately charged her with murder, then there's probably something more to the story than meets the eye. And that's another thing about South Africa. overall crime, but domestic violence is several times higher than it is here in the United States. And a lot of that is due to the strife and stress of, poverty and just, day-to-day hard life of these people. A increase in mental illness and emotional distraughtness. It's just a mess. Not just even in black South Africa, but with the white minority. I mean, who could forget the story of Oscar Pistorius, the South African double amputee, Olympic and world champion that killed his South African model girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, and tried to claim that he thought his girlfriend being in the bathroom in the middle of the night while he was in bed was somebody breaking into his home in Pretoria. So he went and opened fire through the fucking bathroom door and killed the bitch, even though the bitch was in the bed with him just a few minutes earlier. Yeah, right. He wound up getting 5-year prison term for that, even though he was acquitted of murder. He was convicted of culpable homicide. So South Africa, especially like Durban and Johannesburg, it's a very dangerous fucking place. And, a lot of people are fucked up in the head over there, even more so than they are over here. And y'all know how violent and crazy it is over here. So, So then, while I'm looking at the story of this Nemgamsu Jayaya bitch, I see another story of a police bitch, and they don't name her. For some strange reason, they don't name her. But the headline is South African policewoman shot and killed her Nigerian lover for exposing her nudes online. So apparently the same year that Nemgamsu Jayaya killed Anile Vili after some type of heated domestic argument that they were having, there was this other bitch who went viral on social media after her alleged lover, that according to reports on social media she was cheating on with her husband, exposed not really her nudes, but exposed a couple of pictures of her in his home taking her police uniform clothes off, assumably to get fucked in her fat ass by the dude that she was cheating on her husband with, right? And somebody found a family photo that she had put up on social media of her husband and 2 children, donning a weave. And they compared it with the pictures that her lover released of her, cheating on her husband. And this was a viral story that, stirred up a lot of controversy. Well, turns out a couple of weeks later, this same bitch, she got mad at at her side dude that was dicking her down, according to this one article, caught up with him. They said she shot him once in the head and killed him after confronting him outside of his home. And then she called police and admitted to what she did. They came and arrested her, took her into custody. And it's like the complete lack, because now at this point I'm immersed in this South African police murdering bitch series thing. I'm like, oh, holy fuck, this shit, this definitely is about to become a video. Now I'm on the 3rd fucking story, and I don't even realize at the time that I'm only halfway through. So I'm looking at this particular story and I'm like, okay, if this is true, this is a bitch that is completely oblivious to her culpability in this case. And that was before she fatally shot this side dude in the head point blank and murdered him, right? You have a husband and 2 kids at home, and you're going your fat ass over this other dude's house while in police uniform, which assuming that you were on duty or you had just gotten off duty at the time, and you're cheating with this other guy, and he's a side dude, so he has no, he has no obligation to you or to be loyal to you. Y'all just fuck buddies. So it's understood that if you do something to make him mad or make him feel jilted, just like these bitches do with dudes that they're fucking, as side chicks, and they release, sex tapes or release the guy's nudes or contact his girlfriend or wife or family, you're subject to these type of things happening to you. Okay? But she, instead of accepting responsibility and taking accountability, taking responsibility and holding herself accountable, she gets mad at the side dude that she shouldn't have been fucking around with anyway. Okay? And she murders the guy. On top of cheating on her husband. And 2 children, because really, it's not often talked about, but when a person cheats, especially in a married relationship, they're not just cheating on their spouse. They're not just cheating on their significant other. They're cheating on any children that were had out of that relationship as well. Don't get it twisted, okay? Whether you're talking about separation, divorce, or, an unfaithful marriage partner, children suffer as well, probably even worse than, the husband or wife does from the result of what the cheating spouse is doing. They suffer emotionally, they suffer psychologically, and a lot of times this can stunt their developmental growth as evolving into functioning adult human beings, and cause them to have all kinds of behavioral problems. Subject for another video. But so, okay, now we're on a third case of a police bitch murdering somebody while on or off duty. Then I come across another unnamed story, because now I'm just fuck it, I'm just in the Google search engine like South African police bitch murders, and I just leave it there, and all these fucking images and stories are coming up, and then I see this other story of this South African police bitch that killed her husband, shot and seriously wounded her daughter, and then killed her fucking self. This bitch too, like the other 3 fucking bitches, well, like 2 of the 3 fucking bitches, was also a constable. That's like a lower rank in the South African police service, but it's not entry level, it's like 1 up from entry level. I think it's like whatever comes before sergeant and then constable. So it says here that a female constable stationed at Lefalali, who was 34 years old and wasn't named in the article, shot her husband 9 fucking times with her service pistol. That's the one thing that is very specific about all of these cases. These crazy ass black bitches over there, they only have, like over here, anybody, including a bitch, just so long as you don't have a felony record, anybody can get a gun. All you got to do is have a license. In some states like Texas, you really don't even have to have a license, I don't think. It's like in the Texas Constitution that just so long as you're not a felon, you can have a gun. I think Alabama is that way too. And so, a civilian can get guns just like the police or the military has. But in a lot of these other countries, you have to, be some special appointee. Like in France, like the police service or some high-ranking politician to have a gun. And it's dawning on me as I'm going through all of these cases of these crazy black African bitches murdering usually their domestic partners. I realized the only way these bitches have access to guns, the only way they have access to firepower is through their fucking job, through their police job. Because they're murdering people not with their personal gun, not with a butcher knife, from the kitchen, they're murdering people with their service pistols. Almost every single one of these articles that I've read up to this point is a bitch killing her baby or her boyfriend or her husband with her fucking service pistol. Usually while off duty. Like, goddamn. Don't they make them motherfuckers, like over here, I don't think you can take your equipment with you home in a lot of municipalities. I know some municipalities, especially like sheriff's office, they do allow their employees to take like their police vehicles and equipment home, but some require you to leave that shit at the station. Over in South Africa, it's just a fucking fuck all. Or if they do require them to leave it at the station, they don't leave it, and they supervisors don't be checking to see if they left it. These bitches straight taking guns home and killing people with that shit. So it said the 34-year-old bitch got into a heated argument with her 34-year-old husband and shot him 9 times with her Beretta 92 service pistol in a town called Kloppenheim in Anverwacht, which I guess is a leftover from the Dutch apartheid colony days. I guess they named that town because I know that ain't African. And this happened back in October of 2020. Now I said after the bitch killed her husband, she left their home and went to Mokopane and burnt down a second house that the couple also shared. So they had 2 houses. She burnt down this other house in Mokopane after killing her husband at the first house. Then she called police to admit to murdering her husband and burning down the fucking house, and admitted that she was going to turn herself in, right? But instead, after burning their house down in Mokopane, in a subdivision of Mokopane actually called Gamakoba or Gamakaba, and calling and confessing to the crime, she went to a section of Pretoria called Mamelodi East. There she went to a housing project that was an off-campus facility for students going to the University of Pretoria. Knocked on the door of her 17-year-old daughter, who was at the housing project. When her daughter's roommate opened the fucking door, she walked in uninvited, walked up to her own daughter, and shot and seriously wounded her own daughter. Then left back out the motherfucking apartment, and then fatally shot herself in the parking lot. Yeah. Then I back out of that story, and I see this image of this dumb black bitch in a SAPS police uniform that's wearing color contacts in her eyes, because I don't know motherfucking African bitch, especially in South or West Africa, got eyes that fucking light. She's wearing hazel eye contacts. So I click on this story. This is the 5th story, mind you. I click on this motherfucking story, and the title reads, "Female police officer remains in custody for alleged murder of colleague." Now this motherfucking bitch, constable, yet again, another constable. I don't know what it is about them goddamn constables over there. But goddamn, maybe they need to get them bitches a different rank. Cause they constables don't seem too fucking happy. Constable Iris Patience Joseph, age 31. And that's the other thing that I noticed about all these bitches up to this point. Pretty much all of them are in or around their 30s. The ones that are named and listed, that is. And the other bitches that weren't listed, they look like they're around that age as well. So what atrocity did Constable Iris Patience Joseph commit? Well, in this case, instead of killing her known domestic partner, she killed a colleague a male colleague while they were on duty and on the scene of a call where they were checking out some suspicious dudes in a township. It says here that Constable Irish Patience Joseph, age 31, was formally charged with murder after allegedly shooting a colleague. Now, interestingly enough, this bitch was part of a special South African police service unit known as Hawks, which is supposed to be their gang and drug intervention and enforcement unit. She was stationed out of this area called Kibera, and she was one of 6 police officers who were patrolling a township in the Kibera region called Kwadesi or Kwadesi. I don't know if the W is silent or not. Now, while on patrol, 3 of these officers noticed 3 men that they thought were suspicious. And in South Africa, that's something that didn't change at the end of apartheid, because they're so rife with crime, mainly of young black males in poverty-stricken areas that are, assumed to be gang members or drug dealers. The police over there, they have a stop and frisk. They have a stop and frisk policy that's very similar to the one that was enlisted in New York for the longest time before it was finally ended and deemed to be racist, which it was. And so 3 of these officers, they saw some kids that they thought were suspicious, and they stopped them and they searched them. They didn't find anything on these 3 dudes after getting out of their police vehicle, their armored police vehicle. Now, after searching these dudes, the 3 officers, they got back in their armored police vehicle. It's this giant truck that looks like one of those armored bank cars. It's really a giant truck, like, the ones that be transporting money from and to the bank. These 3 cops, they returned to the vehicle that had 3 of their colleagues in it. They were part of a 6-man and woman unit. As the 3 of them re-entered the vehicle, they heard a gunshot. Now, the gunshot was muffled by the fact that they hadn't yet opened the door to the vehicle to get back in it, but were approaching it. When they opened the vehicle, they saw Iris Joseph and this other officer that was assumably in a seat in front of her. And the one officer, I don't know if he wasn't wearing his bulletproof vest or she shot him. Well, it said he was shot in the side of the stomach, but he looked like he was unwell. That's what the article described it as. When they questioned this officer that looked like, he was not well, he said that his stomach was sore and he appeared to be losing consciousness and sweating. So without realizing that he had actually been shot, much less shot by one of his fellow officers that was still in the vehicle, these motherfuckers, they drove him to Mercantile Hospital, where he was declared dead on arrival. Now, an initial investigation and ballistics tests found later that he was actually not only shot, but that he had been fatally shot by his colleague, Iris Patience Joseph. And what's strange is it only mentions Iris Joseph and the unidentified victim that was also an officer. It doesn't mention the 3rd person that was in the vehicle when these other 3 got out to stop and search the 3 kids in this township. So I don't know if the 3rd person as a witness told them what happened, or if they just figured this out on their own. But eventually they figured out that Officer Iris Joseph fatally shot this male colleague, which we can assume was black because 80% of the South African police service force is black now, and only like 11% of it is white, and I think the rest is like a mixture of like Indian, biracial, and Arab, yada yada yada. So she was arrested shortly thereafter and brought before New Brighton Magistrates Court on a formal charge of murder. Now, what isn't known, because as I told y'all before, is that what isn't known is whether the shooting was intentional or accidental. Because as I told you guys before, a audit found that like 40-something thousand, like close to, I think, yeah, it's about a quarter, nearly right around a quarter, more or less, of the South African police service force have officers that either never got their firearm proficiency certificates or their firearm proficiency tests have expired. They're supposed to recertify every 2 years, but because of the level of corruption and lack of resources, a lot of the times they get hardly any training, including with firearms at all. So they're, in addition to outright bloody premeditated murder, including with many of these bitches using their service weapons to kill people in domestic disputes, there's also been several cases of accidental shootings, including a very high profile case which we're about to get to in a moment. Okay, but it was never substantiated whether or not Iris Patience Joseph, who from what I understand was sitting behind this male police officer, actually shot him from the side and in the back on purpose, or whether she shot him by accident. Now, knowing how scandalous them motherfuckers are over there, it may have been some type of love triangle thing where maybe they was fucking each other off duty, but I don't know why she would do that in the presence of another witness, because it seemed like if she was going to do that, she would have waited for the 3 other gang unit officers to get out of the car and then shot both of her colleagues, and then probably tried to drive off with the vehicle or something, or got them when they was off duty. So this case may have been, I'm not saying it was, it's just pure speculation, this may have been a case of an accidental shooting where this dumbass bitch was pointing her gun in an unsafe direction and the thing just went off. Okay, but either way, you got a 5th case in a very short span of time of a black bitch shooting somebody with her service weapon, and this time it's while she's on duty. And trust me, it only gets worse. I'm saving the best for last. So then I'm looking at, I'm backing out of the Iris Patience Joseph case, and at this point I'm thinking, God damn, how many cases of police bitches do they have over there murdering people in cold fucking blood? Now, this next case was by far from being the worst case of all of these cases of black bitches in South African police service uniform with police service pistols murdering people, you know, family members, co-workers, yada yada yada. But this specific case, it really turned that switch on as far as my Marlboro Man mindset was concerned. Because here was a case where you had a couple that, not only according to pictures that they posted online, but family and friends were the happiest couple you ever saw, that they were never seen or there were no indications that they had any type of disagreements with each other, and they seemed to be so happily in love. They had recently, as 2019, been announced their engagement to people that they knew. And you know, I was lucky enough in this case where the female officer, she actually has an extensive social media on Facebook, where she has not only pictures of, you know, her family and selfies and stuff, but she has picture after picture after picture after picture of her hugged up with this man that was 7 years her elder, that was her fiance. And they seem like a happy enough couple. From what I understand, they had a baby together the same year that they announced their engagement in 2019. And then in March of the next year, 2020, right around the time the COVID scamdemic hit, they had a heated argument one March morning, according to witnesses and police, sometime after midnight. And the man, he goes to leave this building that is on some property. It's on some land that they own, that it's separate from the actual house that they live in. And they had some, I think from what I understand, they had some relatives of the man living there in that separate building on the land that they owned. And there was some type of heated argument around the side of this building in the middle of the night. And the guy, he goes to leave the area and walk away from his fiance, this woman, identified by citizens.witness.com as 23-year-old Constable Nelisiwe Ngubani. And Nelisiwe, she follows her man that she had just been arguing with and having a yelling match with down this trail, and that leads to the main house, back to the main house from the separate building. And he turns around and she shoots him point blank in the chest. Now the man, Sandile Gabuza, he is mortally wounded, falls to the ground, and dies, probably within minutes of being shot. Not too long after that, she goes into the house and she fatally shoots herself in the head. Well, she shoots herself in the head. The brother of the man, Gabuza, he's in the separate building. He hears the gunshot and he calls a family friend that lives not too far down the block, who also heard the gunshots. And he says that he heard a gunshot outside in the middle of the night. And keep in mind, this brother of this now murdered man, Sandile Gabuza, has no idea that his sister-in-law just murdered his brother right outside the building where he's staying or living, right on the land of Sandile Gabuza. So he calls a family friend, tells him he heard a gunshot, but he's scared to go outside in the middle of the night because it was an area that was known for burglaries and robberies. So the family friend, they called the police. I don't know why the brother didn't call the police. They call the police, and while the police are on their way, he goes out with his gun and a couple of other neighbors from the surrounding area. They go onto the property, and not too far along the trail past the first building, they find the lifeless body of 30-year-old Sandile Gabuza. Now, after they find Gabuza, they go into the house. They're probably thinking that maybe bad guys, some type of criminal, got him or something. They start to fan out and check the perimeter of the home. They go just inside the front door and find his fiance, Constable Nelisiwe Ngubani, dead. Well, she's on the floor of the front room of their home with a single gunshot wound to the head. They said she was bleeding profusely, but she was still breathing and she still had a pulse. So longer story short, the emergency units come on to the scene. An ambulance transports Ngubani to Edendale Hospital, where she's declared dead on arrival. And you have yet another in a long, sad series of murders and murder-suicides by not only police bitches, but just police officers in general in South Africa that have access to firepower. Now, in this case specifically, it kind of struck a chord with me because, I have preached to black men for years now the importance of learning to be at peace with one's own company, learning to be one's own biggest fan, learning to make peace with the possibility that you may indeed have to live a solitary lifestyle in order to achieve peace of mind and happiness. Okay? You may not be cut out for, and a lot of people aren't cut out for, relationships and situationships with other human beings. Okay? The strife, the drama, we've seen countless stories, from active shooter situations to situations where people kill their significant other and kill themselves, where it's obvious that a lot of people have absolutely no business whatsoever in intimate relationships or, even business partnerships with other people, because they either don't have their mind right or they just find it hard to adapt to the negative energy that eventually will come whenever you deal with another human being or a series of human beings. Some people have a lot of time processing that, and it's made worse when you're dealing with a couple, especially a young couple like this, that they have a child, and both of them work. From what I understand, Ngubani was a taxi driver in the Sweetwaters, Kuala area, or however the fuck you pronounce that. And she was stationed 10 miles east of there in a area called Pietermaritzburg, at the police station in Pietermaritzburg. And you have the stresses of, two working spouses, that I'm assuming, considering how young their baby appeared to be, had to get daycare. And you're trying to, provide for this homestead that you have. And from outward appearances to everybody else, it seems like, you got what people call over here the American dream. Over there, I don't know what they call it, but you have, the basic human necessities, the societal standard for what people would call a successful life. A young family, a car, 1 or 2 cars in the driveway, a house, some land. But what few people factor into that, because people are visual creatures more than they are logically thinking creatures, is that you don't know the tremendous amounts of stress, as a result of negative energy put behind that, that effort that was necessary to acquire everything that this couple appeared to have, including, what appeared on the surface to be a happy relationship that was supposedly going to lead to marriage. Okay. It said, the family friend said it appeared that they hid their marital problems. Well, they weren't married, I'm sorry. They hid their relationship problems, okay? And I'm sure that, stress not only from their relationship, but from their jobs, from their surrounding environment, from, trying to support a child, all of that factored into that, okay? It's also possible that one or the other of these two may have had something on the side. Looking at this dude, he seems like a relatively young, handsome brother, African brother. It wouldn't surprise me if, she was giving him a hard time. She may have been, I can't say because she's a cop, because you have different kinds of people that work different kinds of jobs. Some of them like to be controlling, some of them like to be controlled. Like, how many bitches on Ghetto Gaggers have we seen that were like ex-prison guards and shit? So, I ain't gonna say that, but maybe she was controlling, or maybe she was one of those hopeless romantic type bitches. And to be personally honest, from what I see in these pictures, just going on a little bit that I can see on these pictures, I'm edging more towards her being a hopeless romantic type. Now, those type of bitches that are hopeless romantics, that hone in on one dude and like they're not actually hoes, so to speak, but they're not just hopelessly romantic, they're also hopelessly mental, as in mentally unstable, and they have a lot of emotional problems, and they might be drinkers. Those are some of the most dangerous bitches. So those are some of the riskiest bitches for a man, especially a black man, to find himself around. Wasn't there, like back in the 90s, wasn't there like this well-known comedian, like I think he was a Saturday Night Live comedian, and he did some movies here and there, and his wife, she fatally shot him and then killed herself or something like that, and it was like a big story for like a long time. I think that happened back in '98, but like he was one of the most well-known TV sitcom and late night show comedians in American entertainment history, and his wife killed him. I remember that. And then they did a documentary that interviewed a lot of their family and friends and was talking about, the hit and drug use, and, how the bitch was, she was a walking, talking, just unstable nut job. And what you came to realize was this was a female that really had absolutely no business being in a relationship with a man, especially a man whose job, being a Hollywood funny guy in the movies, put a lot of demand on him to be out and about and, you know, taking care of his career obligations instead of their taking care of her and her problems. You know, you have a lot of people, both male and female, in these relationships that are very emotionally needy on top of being mentally distraught. And, you know, they focus in on a single person and they get that person all kinds of hell, which I suspect was happening in this case. And, you know, the person at some point, they're like, fuck it, I'm leaving. Or, you know, they start messing around with another person on the side to kind of, you know, make them, you know, kind of zone out what they're going through at home, and things get ugly, you know. And so when I saw this case, and particularly when I'm looking at all of these pictures of this bitch hugged up with the fiance that she murdered, I'm thinking to myself, all these stupid ass niggas making videos in the past about my dolls, or, you know, call themselves trying to make light of, you know, the things that I talk about in my blogs and my vlogs. And I can only recall the question that I constantly ask over and over and over again. What the fuck am I actually missing by being with one of these raggedy ass bitches? If they're not raggedy physically, they're raggedy psychologically. Okay? They can put on a brave face and take all kinds of nice pictures in a bathing suit, you know, along the beach. But as we saw in the case of that black bitch Shanquella Robinson that went down there to Mexico only to get her brains beat in by her own so-called friends. Okay? These same fucking whores that are taking all these pictures stunting for the gram, a lot of them are walking, talking, fucking basket cases in real life when that camera is turned off. And sometimes, many times when it's turned on, as of course part of her fatal beating was caught on tape. So, you know, what am I as a man missing from not being with one of these bitches? More strife? More stress on my life? More stress on my finances? What am I missing? I believe it was a black bitch back in the 90s who came up with the term, I can do bad all by myself. Well, as far as I and the Marlboro Man mindset goes, I can do bad or good all by myself. Okay? I don't need a bitch to try to elevate my ego and self-esteem. Okay? Because you know the saying, they'll build you up just to tear you down. All that lovey-dovey, smiley face bullshit, that's only going to last for a very small period of time. And then you're going to have psychosis. Okay? It's going to be strife. Y'all going to start getting on each other's nerves. You're going to start doing little stupid ass things to make each other mad. And, you know, I mean, how many relationships are lasting nowadays? So why is there this demonization of people who choose to, especially men who choose to just keep to themselves? People want to demonize it by calling it an incel, when the truth of the matter is, most loners are actually the safest people that you can be around. I don't know if you stupid motherfuckers that are simps and fucking whores have been checking the news, but most of the people that are going off doing shit, like, you know, killing their fucking girlfriend and killing themselves, most of these people are people that are doing stuff that society calls normal. Okay? Partying, clubbing, drinking, you know, going from one relationship to the next, getting married, having children. Okay? These are the people that are the most violent and the most mentally and emotionally unstable. I'll never forget that fucking fucking half black bitch in Atlanta that was like, she was one of them prominent Dexter Negro types that was well connected with the business world and, you know, the Atlanta black, you know, the hierarchy of black Atlanta. including the mayor's office when that Keisha Lance Buttams bitch was mayor, that she wound up murdering her 2 college-age children and killing herself not too long after she officially got divorced from her husband. Okay, and they live in this big old house that got to be worth a couple $1 million. You know, he was a surgeon, she was a businesswoman. You know, they had, you know, significant money in the bank. But all that shit, the vacations to Italy, the money, the fancy cars in the driveway, then none of that shit mean anything because of the madness that was going on inside that bitch's head and whatever drama and strife, you know, she was causing and adding to that family as a result. Okay, so again, what the fuck am I or anybody else missing? People, especially these bitches, are just too unstable in the head these days, and it's primarily because they literally do not know their place in a relationship as, you know, female humans as anything. Okay, they think that they are supposed to be like men. They think they are supposed to do things like men do things, and that fucks up the balance of not only nature itself, but female nature. That's why these bitches are so mean, they're so emotionally unstable, they're so careless, you know. And then the stupid motherfuckers like Shalonda Anderson, they get shot and killed in front of a nightclub in Dallas for acting like a fucking idiot trying to run down security guards. Then they don't understand how their own piss poor choices in life lead to bad things happening to them, like them being left with 4 and 5 illegitimate children, or being killed by some violent pookie that they were dating, or getting the shit beat out of them from dating some you know, pretty boy dude that had a history of fucking violence. Okay, they can't figure this shit out, and people have tried to help them, but just like I learned with niggas, and Qweens said, ain't no saving what don't want to be saved. So again, you're not missing anything from not being in an intimate relationship. And anybody who's been in enough intimate relationships that didn't work out, okay, knows that find your soulmate thing, it's just a fucking gimmick. Okay, it's a societal fucking gimmick that is a myth. Few people, especially nowadays, find that so-called significant other that they can live happily ever after with till death do they part. That is a societal myth, because people are not bred anymore to raise families. They're bred to do and think only for self. Okay, what do I want? Me. You cannot have a person that has lived a life of being trained like that, especially if they are a female, and think that that person is going to be a long-term partner that is worthy of you investing your time, money, and effort in. You just can't do it. And so then, oh my God, I run across a case. This happens so much in South Africa, of corrupt police officers committing violent crimes, including armed robbery, kidnapping, assault, rape, right? And even murder. And in this specific situation, female police officers, this happens so often that a couple of these cases have made national and even international headlines, including the biggest of them that made international headlines was the case of this young 16-year-old boy with Down syndrome called Nathaniel Julies. Now, Nathaniel Julies was fatally shot by, this is gonna trip y'all the fuck out. I couldn't believe it. He was fatally shot in a I'm gonna get to his story in a minute, but he was fatally shot in a township called El Dorado Park in Johannesburg, Johannesburg, Gauteng, South Africa. And I believe Johannesburg is the capital of South Africa, though I could be wrong. I don't believe it's Pretoria. Wait, is it Johannesburg? Oh no, I'm sorry. South Africa actually has 3 capital cities. Not Johannesburg, God, why the fuck do I keep saying that? Cape Town, Pretoria, and Bloemfontein, all named by the white colonialists. But Johannesburg is the largest city in South Africa and most notable cities internationally. So this 16-year-old boy named Nathaniel Julius was fatally shot while roaming this township by a black female constable, of course. That never fails in South Africa. It's always a constable bitch. I gotta come up with a nickname for that shit. This shit is happening so goddamn often. But get this bitch's name. Nathaniel Julius was fatally shot by Constable Kayleen Whiteboy. Can you make this shit up? I mean, where's David Carroll at, man? We gotta dig him up out the grave, bro. Where's David Carroll at? Hollywood screenwriters can't make this shit up. This boy, a fucking Down syndrome patient, was fatally shot by a black bitch and her last name, somehow her last name is White Boy. See, y'all think I be making this shit up when I be telling these stories, but that's why I show y'all these screenshots, okay? There's no way I could make this shit up. It's not possible. Like, y'all remember the case of the story of Claudette Colvin? See, y'all would have thought that I was the 15-year-old black bitch that refused to get up out of her seat months before Rosa Parks and the NAACP. Was it the NAACP or the SELC? One of them organizations, one of them bullshit ass organizations. They modeled their plans to spark the modern day civil rights movement off of the story of Claudette Colvin, and basically sent Rosa Parks in to mimic what she did. That whole thing was fucking staged, okay? Because they couldn't find a black bitch that was non-scandalous enough to spark the fucking movement. And turns out Claudette Colvin, they didn't use her, not only because she was young, but because she had got knocked up and impregnated by some rich white dude at 15 years old with no husband. See, y'all would have thought that I was making that shit up if I hadn't actually showed y'all the screenshotted proof via the Wikipedia page of this bitch's life story. Y'all would have thought I was making this shit up. How in the living fuck does a black mentally handicapped boy in Johannesburg, South Africa get killed by a black police bitch by the name of Kayleen Whiteboy? Where the fuck did she even get that last name? Somebody, y'all gotta help me, please. I don't... What in the living holy fuck is going on over there? I mean, it's bad enough here. It's fucked up and corrupt enough and crime ridden enough here. But I know some of y'all are African. I don't know if anybody that listens to me is South African, but I know for a fact that I have brothers that listen to me from overseas, because some of y'all have identified yourself as like being British, and I don't know if you're first or third generation African immigrant or if you were born in the UK, but I know there gotta be some brothers from the motherfucking motherland. What in the holy fuck is going on over there? How many of y'all got the last name White Boy? White Boy? Really? I mean, I know the Indians used to give first and last names of like places where they live, like Elk Woman and Strong Bear and shit, but White Boy? Really? Did them Dutch have that much of an impression on y'all before they left? You can't make this shit up, bro. You cannot make this shit up. You can't. It's just not. It's not possible. I could not pay a screenwriter $150 million to make this shit up. I guess that's why David Carroll always said there's that $67 million question that always has to be asked. Where in the fuck did this bitch get the last name White Boy? Anyway, back onto the subject. Okay, so this is unbelievable. The story is that this kid with Down syndrome, 16-year-old Nathaniel Julies, he had been taken to a hospital after being blasted in the torso with a shotgun. And to try to cover up their tracks, which was a mistake, the police officers which took him to the hospital, where he soon thereafter died, identified as Sergeant Simon Delanavani and Constable Kayleen Whiteboy. They transported the boy to a hospital, not realizing that he died before he reached the hospital. And at the hospital, they claimed that the boy had been caught in gang crossfire between police and a violent gang and killed. But later, during the course of the investigation, detectives interviewed several witnesses in this township of El Dorado Park, and they found out that the boy wasn't caught in gang crossfire. There was no shootout. In fact, what had actually happened was that the boy had been sent to a store from his home in the township to buy some biscuits for dinner later on that night. While en route to the store, he came in contact with these officers that were questioning young men in the community about a murder that had happened the night before. The officers stopped and questioned and frisked the boy, found out he wasn't doing nothing, but they didn't realize that he had Down syndrome. So they moved on from him to question a couple of other boys, a couple of other dudes, and then they got back in their vehicle. Now, when they got back in their vehicle, instead of leaving the scene, they decided to stay in their vehicle and wait on another unit. While they were waiting on another unit, they decided to take a break and eat some food that they had brought with them while they were in their police vehicle. Now, this kid having Down syndrome, being mentally handicapped, instead of leaving after the police searched and frisked him, he returned to where he saw the police getting in their vehicle while they were eating, and he went up to the vehicle and started talking to the cops that had just messed with him. Maybe he figured they wanted to be his friend or something. Again, the kid is mentally handicapped. Okay? So he started bothering the cops. They get annoyed, right? They order him away from the vehicle. He wouldn't leave. So they get back out and confront him. They ordered him away. He still wouldn't leave, right? And so to try to intimidate him, not realizing that he has Down syndrome, they frisked him again. And at some point, the female cop, first of all, this Simon Navlani, or whatever the fuck his name is, he hands the female cop a shotgun, and she stands in front of this kid and she fires a shot. Now, she later would explain in court that she thought that a rubber bullet had been loaded into the shotgun, because she claimed that she used the same shotgun earlier in the day on a different call. This Kayleen Whiteboy bitch, she claimed that she had used the same shotgun to fire rubber bullets as warning shots into the air to disperse a crowd of young hoodlums earlier in the day on a different call, right? I think under South African police protocol, it's legal. Over here in this country, cops can't do that. But in that country, if it's deemed to be a dangerous situation, police can threaten lethal force but not necessarily use it by firing a shot in the air. So she assumed that a rubber bullet was in the shotgun because she had used the same shotgun to fire into the air and disperse the crowd earlier in the day. So her bright idea is, since this boy won't leave, get the fuck out of our face, right? She gonna take the fucking shotgun, point it at him or near him, and fire what she thought was a rubber bullet, instead of macing him or asking somebody standing around in the township if they knew where his mama was or whatever, right? And she blasted him with the fucking shotgun. The force threw the boy, knocked him off his feet, threw him underneath an abandoned vehicle that was parked nearby. When the police officers realized what they had done, Simon Navalny, whose nickname is Scorpion, and this Kayleen white boy bitch who was the trigger woman, they dragged the boy out from underneath the vehicle, put him in the police van without calling for backup or reporting what they had done on the scene, and took him to the hospital. This other cop, who was also on the scene at the time of the shooting and witnessed part of what happened, Voster Nachiangolo, he tried to help the other two cops cover up the shooting by intimidating witnesses and coming up with this cover story that they later told investigators about Nathaniel Julies getting killed in an exchange of gunfire between police and a gang, right? And so all three of these dumb motherfuckers get charged. Voster Nachiangolo, he gets charged with basically their version of obstruction of justice. And Simon Navalny, or however you pronounce his fucking name, and Kayleen White Boy. Somebody please make a video about this, please. I can't believe it. Anyway, they get charged with murder. Now Simon, the nickname the Scorpion, this idiot, he was charged even though he wasn't the trigger man. The black bitch was. He was charged with the murder of Nathaniel Julies because he handed her the shotgun and directed her to scare him off. At least that's according to some rumors, right? He didn't know that the dumb bitch was going to point right at the boy and fire a shot because she assumed that a rubber bullet was in the thing. And incidentally, for those of you who don't know anything about guns, rubber bullets at close enough ranges can kill, and if they don't kill, they can cause irreversible, tremendous damage. Okay, a rubber bullet can penetrate you. There was a case many years ago of this idiot Russian dude that put a rubber bullet in his own fucking head. He pulled the trigger, thinking he was playing Russian roulette with his drunken brother-in-law that had just got married at this wedding reception, and he racked the slide on the gun, put it to his head, pulled the fucking trigger, and he wrecked himself for life. I never did find out if he killed his dumbass self. I think there was a case even during the Michael Brown riots in Ferguson where this light-skinned biracial black bitch, she lost an eye after getting hit in the head with a rubber bullet. So rubber bullets are nothing to play with at close range, okay? I mean, even a blank can kill you if it's contact distance, okay? So there seems to be a lot of ignorance about not only guns and weapons, but types of ammunition, okay? Anything that goes boom, that explodes like a bomb, can fucking kill you, even if there's not a lead projectile involved. So anyway, these two dumbasses get charged with the same count of murder, even though Kayleen White Boy is the trigger woman, right? And somehow Beyonce's sister, Solange Knowles, she gets word, somehow she gets a hold of this story, and she brings international attention to the story of Nathaniel Julies by paying her respects, paying homage to him on her Twitter account, right? And then the story of Nathaniel Julies, not only the story of Nathaniel Julies, but the broader problem of South African police corruption and abuses of police powers gets international attention. And all of these people start writing articles as if they didn't already fucking know on, you know, not only how corrupt the South African government has been since Nelson Mandela, but also how not much has really changed between the police force and its relations with the communities of South Africa since the end of apartheid. And as a matter of fact, things have actually stayed the same as far as relations go, even though most of the force is black. And see, this points to the fact of what I came to realize after the Simone 50 Tricks hit list came out so many years ago, and all these punk ass Negroes, you know, they basically turned their back on me and what I was trying to do when we were retaliating against the black feminist extremists that were fucking with us. They turned their back on us and started negotiating with these whores. And a couple of years after that, you know, they started doing live streams and all kinds of bullshit with the very fucking bitches that were trying to destroy them only a year earlier. Okay? And keep in mind, I learned the hard way that there were Brutuses and Benedict Arnolds within the ranks of black America well before, you know, this monkey boy Thorpe creep or, you know, anything else, you know, like any of these other morons online that show their true colors when they see an opportunity to gain some type of benefit or when they decide they don't like you anymore. I realized that a long time ago, which is why it's funny to me how these dumbasses keep comparing me to the manosphere when I separated from that shit a long time ago and just basically isolated myself online as I do offline. Because I realized, okay, as y'all said over a decade ago, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, okay? That this whole Rainbow Nation thing was a farce from its conception. This idea that, you know, if you put black people in control and push out the white minority, though allow the white minority to still exist and keep sucking resources off of us, but put a black face on everything that's symbolic that things are going to turn around. No. As a matter of fact, the black people that are in charge there are just as fucked up and corrupt and abusive of their power as the black folks over here in these Democratic-led shitholes like Chicago are corrupt or not doing, or at the very least not doing their fucking job to service the people to service the constituents of their districts, okay, and make sure that their needs are met, okay. It's starting to realize that, you know, just like a white cop from fucking apartheid would fuck you up, a black one will too. And just like in apartheid, the black cops treat white people in the Eastern and Western Cape and Pretoria, where most of the white folks live, especially in upscale suburban communities, completely different than they treat the black people. Now, understood, that's in a way, it's understood that a majority of the crime is in the poor areas, which is why this is so. But at the same time, why are these areas still so poor and underdeveloped that so many people turn to fucking crime? Because they feel like they have no other fucking way out, with black people, nothing but black people at the helm of every fucking thing. Why is it still so that there's this disparity between the white minority and the black majority, and what they call economic apartheid, modern economic apartheid, right? If black folks are in control of every fucking thing, why are white folks still the main ones benefiting in South Africa? To the point where you have shit like this happening on a daily fucking basis. Let alone just the individual craziness of these black police motherfucking bitches. Make that make sense. Because it doesn't. And you know, I really thought that was going to be the Nathaniel Julie's Kayleen White Boy case that gained international attention right around the time of, the George Floyd, well, not right around the time, a couple of months after the George Floyd riots and protests back in 2020. I thought that was going to be the precipice I thought that was going to be the climax. I thought that was going to be the top of the heap, so to speak, of the corruption and madness that is going on with these crazy ass bitches and just the police in general within the South African police service. So I say, okay, I've seen enough stories. I'm gonna start doing extensive research on this. And understand, when I say I did specific research on this, I read through 26 different pieces, individual pieces of digital paper on this, okay? Including 2 PDF research file studies that were over 10 plus pages apiece, okay? I went through 26 different articles on this issue because I needed to understand, okay? The black bitches over here are bad enough, and you know we've talked on several occasions on how I came to a realization. I had an epiphany, and I realized that Africa, those Africans, even Eddie Griffin, comedian Eddie Griffin acknowledged this. Akwesi, the brother of Logic and Common Sense, has acknowledged this. Those niggas over there, even though they're in the majority and in political and military power and control, they are several times worse. With everything from bedwentry to corruption to crime, they are several times worse than these niggas over here, by far. Okay? I mean, the motherfucking bitch's last name is White Boy. Where in the fuck? Where did she go? Dude, you know ain't no motherfucking African first or last name White Boy. Okay? What the fuck did this hoe do? After she got done sucking a white cock, where did she go to a government office and have her last name changed to White Boy? Why didn't she just have it changed to White Dick? Kayleen White Dick. You can't make this shit up. Oh my God. So, I'm beginning research. I open up 26 articles. I'm saying, we're making a video about this. Shut up, Diddy. Be quiet. I'm trying to talk. I said we gotta do research on this. Little did I fucking know that the best, I had not even gotten to the best part yet. Yeah, I hadn't even got to the best part. So as I'm doing research, I mean, I'm opening anything even loosely related to South African political corruption or the South African police service. I come across several articles when I type in South African policewoman kills, and I just leave it there. I come across several articles that show this ugly black bitch with drawn on eyebrows, and oftentimes her hair tied into a double knot. And her name is Rosemary Ndlovu, or Ndlovu. They don't pronounce their vowels like we do over here. So just say Rosemary Ndlovu. I don't know if that's how you pronounce the last name exactly. Click on it, Come to find out, this bitch was also a police bitch. A South African police service officer that rose to the rank of sergeant out of Tembisa. And what is Rosemary Ndlovu, who is infamous in South Africa, what is she accused of doing? What crime did she do? I thought to myself, okay, well, let's see. What did she kill? Her boyfriend, her side dude, her husband, her child, a colleague? Because we've been through all of that. Oh no. Rosemary Ndlovu has been labeled a serial killer by the South African government. And not only a serial killer, but a serial killer of the worst kind. And Rosemary Ndlovu, the former Tembisa-based South African police service sergeant, she's labeled as a serial killer because she murdered not one, indirectly or directly murdered, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, nigga, but six of her own fucking family members. And she committed these acts over a 6-year span between 2012 and 2018. Not only did this motherfucking bitch murder her own family members, she murdered them to collect life and funeral insurance policy money. She lit this diabolical fucking Saw / Hostel / Final Destination / Misconceited / every fucking When the Bow Breaks / every fucking horror movie with a crazy black bitch playing the villain that you can think of. This diabolical bitch, according to the prosecutor and the judge, she was so bad, y'all. First of all, there were cries for the South African Congress for the ANC to pass a law that reinstated the death penalty to kill this motherfucking bitch. You know, in South Africa, they don't have the death penalty. You can only do life in prison. Before they gave this motherfucking bitch 6 life terms, before they gave her 6 life terms, the judge acknowledged that this sick ass bitch turned her family members, one cousin, one nephew, two nephews, one niece, her own sister, and her boyfriend into financial commodities like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. You know, you get to buy, sell, and trade bonds and stocks and shit. This bitch had turned her goddamn family members into biological commodities where she was setting them up with hitmen to be killed, to be murdered, so that she could collect the life and funeral insurance policy money off of them. At the end of it, she had collected 93,000 American dollars, which in South African rand is like 1.4 million South African rand. You know, their currency dwarfs in value to the American dollar, even though the American dollar is no big thing. It's greatly depleted itself. But she collected almost $100,000. And the way it worked was, in South Africa, when you have a family member that has a prominent job or a prominent position, because most people in South Africa, as I explained earlier, they're poor and or unemployed. Okay, so when you have a prominent person like a ranking police officer or a doctor or something, okay, you can have them claim you as a dependent, whether they're taking care of you or not, and that way you get part of like their retirement pension. They can even elect to have you get part of their salary automatically taken out. That is, if they care for their family members. Okay, so if you have, like, for example, say 10 people in a family, one of them becomes a lawyer, right? The other 9 people, whether they're adults or children, okay, if their family member agrees to it, they can have them listed, no matter how old they are, as a dependent. Okay, even if they're working their own job, if they're poor, below a certain income threshold, you can claim those people as dependents. And when they're claimed as dependents, they get part of not only their pay during their career while they're working, but after they retire, their version of a pension. But the role works another way as well. If one of those 9 family members dies by, anything, murder, house fire, car accident, natural causes, that family member, the prominent family member that's claiming all their other family members as dependents, that they're supporting, they get to collect life and funeral insurance off of you, even if they're a distant relative, like a second or third cousin. From my understanding, they can, just so long as it's proven that y'all are related by blood, you're not like neighbors or fuck buddies or anything, they can collect as much life insurance off of you, or they can collect as much life insurance and funeral insurance as they want off of you. So this diabolical bitch set her own poverty-stricken family up, bruh. She's the only bitch in the family with a good paying job, or at least their version of a good paying job, because I hear South African police sergeants, they don't make but $15,000 a year, but over there that's good money. Go figure. But she set her own family up, motherfucking approached them to have them set up as dependents, and they thought, man, sis gonna help us out. She was the eldest in her family of brothers and sisters. She gonna help them out. Little did they know, this motherfucking bitch had drawn up a plan to have them, they ass killed off one by one, so that she could collect life and motherfucking funeral insurance money off of their ass. Once again, just like in the Nathaniel Julie's Kayleen Whiteboy case, it's not possible. You have to understand, it's not possible to make this shit up. It's just not possible. It's not possible. I have a big imagination. I don't have an imagination this big. I just don't. It's not possible. So the murders went down as follows. Madala Witness Homu, Ndlovu's cousin, was found dead with head injuries in March in Olifantsfontein. Ndlovu received over 131,000 rand from the insurance payment for Madala Homu's death. That was in 2012. Then in 2013, Audrey Ndlovu's own sister, was found poisoned and strangled to death in her rented room in Tembisa in June 2013. Ndlovu received 717,421 rand and 17 of their version of cents from insurance for her sister's death after being poisoned and strangled. And I'm wondering, are these life insurance companies, are they doing it? Are they investigating this? Are they looking into this? Or are they just taking this bitch's word for it? These people, they just died and she don't know what happened. I mean, what? Then also in June, the same month, Zanelli Motha, Ndlovu's niece, was beaten to death in June, the same month that her sister was poisoned and strangled. Involu cashed in around 119,840 rand on that death of her own niece. Then, in October of 2015, Maurice Mabasa. This was the only person that was not a direct family member. Some nigga that she was fucking. Involu's boyfriend, she killed him because she wanted to get him out the way because he was poking around asking too many questions about where she was getting the money from. So Involu's boyfriend and father of her child died in October 2015 after being stabbed more than 80 times. His body was dumped in Olifantsfontein. God, these words are terrible. Olifantsfontein, the same place where she murdered her cousin Madala Homo in March 2012. And Involu cashed in on more than $131,000 worth of death policies she had opened in Mabasa's name. So I didn't know that. She even opened I thought it had to be family members from what I saw. But apparently a boyfriend can be a family member. I guess, I don't know how that worked. They weren't married. Well, anyway, she cashed in on his death. Then Miyani Mashaba, Involu's nephew, died in April 2017. He had met up with Involu the day before he died. His body was also found dumped in Olifantsfontein after Involu claimed to have given him a lift, dropping him off at a garage on R21 near Pretoria. Wow. And then her last victim was Brilliant Mashigo, Involu's nephew and Audrey's son, who was last seen with Involu on the 22nd of January 2018 in Bushbuck Ridge. His body was found on January 24th in Bushbuck Ridge, the day after he was seen with Involu. He died from head injuries. Involu admitted in court that she had taken between 2 and 4 funeral policies out from Mashigo. Now, that is only the diabolical part of this sick ass bitch. Guess how she got caught? You know how she got caught? She got caught because she was in the process of trying to murder her other sister. And not only her other sister, but murder her other sister and her sister's 5 children. She was about to get, she had already killed 5 family members and her boyfriend, but she started getting greedy. She started cutting corners. She started getting a little too greedy. She said, well, let's go for a combo meal. Instead of killing them one at a time over a course of several months and years, let's kill them all at once. God damn. She had taken out a total of 13 policies on her own sister and her sister's 5 goddamn kids. Jesus Christ. I'm not even religious, but Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus Christ and all 12 disciples of the Lord. Woo! And y'all ask me why I don't believe in that shit. Where's God's intervention in all this shit? Somebody please tell me, because I don't see it. So then, the way the bitch got caught, she figured, fuck killing them one at a time. We gonna go for a combo meal. And the combo meal was, she hired a hitman to go to her sister's house, wait for the middle of the night, surround the house with fuel, pour gasoline all around the house, or some other type of accelerant, and then light the motherfucking house ablaze. Kill them and make it look like a house fire. She was insistent that her sister and her 5 children were not to be shot or stabbed like the other victims, okay, or beaten. Okay, it had to look like a house fire and an accident. But this time there was a problem. The hitman wanted a certain amount of money up front to even, consider the committing the crime. she refused to pay up front. So the hitman got it in his mind, well, fuck this bitch. I'm gonna snitch on this hoe. Right? Because turns out there was a reward leading to information to anyone who knew anything about the mysterious deaths that were happening around this area. Okay? So he decided to go cash in on the reward money. And the police gave him blanket immunity if he cooperated, after he came to them, snitched on the bitch, and said, this bitch wanted me to kill her sister and 5 children. So they take the hitman, the would-be hitman, and put him in deep with an undercover cop that he comes back to Mvulu claiming to be his hitman partner. And they get this dumbass bitch on tape repeating the same plot that she told to the original hitman to the undercover cop. They get her on camera and audio talking about her plan to kill her other sister and her 5 children. They arrest the bitch, and throughout the course of the investigation, they find out that she was actually behind the murders of these other 6 people that were supposedly her loved ones. Now, her court trial is such a complex case. This would be a complex case anywhere. It would be a high-profile case anywhere, even if it was in the middle of fucking Afghanistan. Okay? It's such a complex case, it takes 4 years to go through the courts. Finally, last July 2022, this bitch is handed 6 life sentences, in spite of cries from the South African public to send this bitch to death. Okay? In addition to the 6 life sentences, she gets 5 additional years of imprisonment for defeating the ends of justice, which defeating the ends of justice is their version of obstruction of justice. She gets 10 years imprisonment for each of the 4 counts of fraud. She gets 10 years imprisonment for each of the 7 counts of inciting to commit murder, when she tried to have her other sister and her 5 children burned alive in their own home. And she gets 10 years imprisonment for the attempted murder of her mother. But check this. Baby girl Mvulu, she ain't done yet. She ain't done yet. This bitch is so evil and so corrupt that while she's sitting in jail over the course of that 4 years, she tries to use her former contacts in the police force to set up to bribe a official to have the detective that was investigating her case murdered. This bitch just thinks murder. Y'all remember that there was a movie that came out, I forget the name of it, but this dude, it was a movie called SWAT. I do remember the name of it, with Colin Farrell, I believe his name. No, not Colin Farrell. It was that white boy, Colin, whatever his name was. Oh no, I was right. His name is Colin Farrell. He was playing an LAPD SWAT officer, and they had this French dude in custody that was like an international fugitive. And when he sat down with his lawyer inside a LAPD station, he asked his lawyer, you know, she's going over with him his whole case and everything. You know, he's wanted by Interpol and the FBI and everything. And he's like, he talks to his lawyer. He's like, who do we pay to get out of this? And the lawyer explained, this white bitch lawyer, she explained, in this country, you can't bribe people to get out of a situation like this. So he cuts her off real quickly, like, okay, we can't bribe people? Okay, then who do we kill to get out of this? That's how this Mvulu bitch is. God damn. So, the motherfucking bitch, Jesus, have mercy. And I don't even believe in Jesus like y'all believe in him. I gotta call on somebody, man, because, again, say what y'all want about me and my dogs. I am laughing all the way to the motherfucking bank. I don't give a fuck. Fuck y'all. Fuck these bitches. I don't care. And see, for every one bitch that isn't this diabolical, she knows another bitch that's that diabolical and will encourage that bitch to be that way. Which is why I don't care about being with none of these fucking hoes. If they're not crazy, they supporting somebody or staying silent on somebody who is fucking crazy and fucked up in the head. Okay? So, then this dumbass bitch, after being handed 6 life sentences, plus an additional, like, 50 or 60, 70 years for all this other corruption. She gets dragged back into court as if she could get in any more trouble for trying to set up a hit on the police detective investigator that got her dumbass sent to prison. And these were crimes that were just recently discovered shortly after she was convicted in November of 2021 and sentenced for the murders of her 5 relatives and her boyfriend and the who was also the father of her only child, and the attempted murder of her sister and her 5 children and even her own mama. In the mama case, the hitmen actually ran, which is something that I noticed that is also particularly strange in this case. A lot of these hitmen that this bitch was hiring were turning on her. You know, like, instead of actually, you know, carrying out the hit, it was almost like they were starting to get creeped the fuck out by, you know, this bitch constantly ordering hits, like ordering fucking Papa John's pizza or some shit, like ordering takeout or some shit. It's like even they started to get freaked out about this creep ass bitch and what she was doing, because again, the way she got caught was one of the hitmen actually went to the police because she refused to pay up front. But then the hitmen that were actually a different set of hitmen that were actually supposed to take out her mama, they actually turned her, they ran on her. They were supposed to meet her outside her mama's house, and later investigators found out they ran. But then so it turns out that not only, you know, are the hitmen betraying this bitch while she's trying to kill everybody in South Africa, okay? But they find out that, you know, in addition to her relatives, she's trying to take out the police, including, you know, her former colleagues. And it turns out it wasn't just one, but 2 police detectives that they later discovered shortly after her conviction that she tried to murder, including police investigators Sergeant Benneth Mabunda and Colonel Ninthipe Baloka, who was actually her direct superior when she worked at the Thembisa police station. They were the 2 officers directly charged with gathering evidence for her case and presenting it, I guess, before their version of the prosecutor. So shortly after she was arrested in March of 2018, she tried to set up a hit from jail to get them taken out, right? But then it don't stop there. Shit gets deeper, as Denzel Washington said in Training Day. Shit gets even deeper. I mean, there is no level to which this bitch will not stoop. Okay? No, I tell y'all, I have seen and I have heard a lot of crazy shit in my life. Okay? And I know people do a lot of fucked up shit. But I don't think nobody has ever seen no bitch like this. We seen a couple of men like this, but I ain't never seen no female this fucking diabolical and fucking evil and just fucking unremorseful, bro. Turns out, you know how that commercial, if you're older than 30 years old, maybe even 25 years old, you'd remember those old Energizer battery commercials where they had the pink bunny. I don't know if they still do that or not. Does Energizer still run commercials? I don't think so. I haven't seen one in a while, but then again, I don't watch TV on a regular basis. But you remember the pink bunny and the Energizer commercials, and the narrator, you know, at the end, he would always say, as the bunny was playing the stupid drum set and moving, he say the Energizer bunny, he just keeps going and going and going. That's how this case is with Nomia Nvalu. It just keeps going and going and going. So when she was arraigned earlier this year in May of 2022 for the conspiracy to murder the police investigator and her former superior at the Thembisa police station where she once worked, okay? When she was arraigned, she wasn't just arraigned by herself. She was arraigned with this other police bitch who was also a ranking sergeant like herself, which was her former co-worker. Okay? This bitch actually turns out had a partner in crime, they found out when they continued to investigate this bitch. This other bitch that she was arraigned in court with last spring, her name was Nomsa Madao. Now, Nomsa Madao and Nomia Invalu, in addition to the charges of trying to kill the police detectives, Nomia Invalu was charged alongside her co-worker and friend and partner in crime, Nomsa Madao, in trying to additionally murder Madao's husband. Yeah. Murder her husband. Justice Madao. So somehow in the midst of her plotting and murdering her family members, right before she got caught, investigators years later, right after her conviction, found out that she had a co-conspirator that somehow found out what Rosemary Invalu, Nomia Rosemary Invalu was about, and enlisted her help to help her kill her husband. And the absolutely frightening thing about this, because we talk about how lightning doesn't strike twice, or you can't have too many nuts in one basket, is that these were both ranking female police sergeants that worked in the same goddamn police station, which gives you an idea of the level of lunacy that is going on in these bitches over there in South Africa and Africa as a whole. Okay? How the fuck could you have... I could see two different police bitches that work in two different places completely. But how do you have two murder on the mind ass ranking police bitches that are pulling people over with guns and badges, arresting people, writing up paperwork on charges on people, and whatever else they do? How can you have two crazy ass motherfucking bitches that want to murder their family members, including their husbands and boyfriends, working out of one fucking police station? What are the odds of that? What are the odds of that? And you look, that's the one thing that's the second thing that is so almost identical about these bitches. Both of them are ugly as hell. I don't think that has anything to do with how evil they were, but like, they both wear shitty makeup, or maybe they just put it on shittily. I do a better job of fucking doing makeup for my goddamn dolls than these bitches. I mean, this goddamn Nomsa Madao bitch, she's even worse than Nomia Invalu with putting on makeup. It looked like she just took a number 2 fucking pencil and just wrote marks over both ends of her fucking forehead. And then, I'm left wondering, who the fuck? Because again, Nomia, she not only murdered her boyfriend in 2015, she tried to use a boyfriend that she had and a side dude as an alibi when trying to get out of taking responsibility for killing other family members, which means somebody was dating and fucking this ugly ass bitch after she killed her boyfriend. 2 dudes. And I'm thinking to myself, I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's like, and I know this is Africa, they have limited resources, but it's like, goddamn, who is fucking this big ass fucking Black Paul Bunyan looking Mighty Joe Young murdering ass crazy bitch and getting her pregnant, yo? And then she has a friend that's just as diabolical and evil as her, that's even uglier than her. Jesus Christ. This Nomia Madao bitch actually makes fucking Rosemary look like fucking Beyonce. That's how ugly she is. And both of these bitches are just ugly inside and out. And the whole time I'm wondering to myself, like, how the fuck you know, like the North Hollywood Bank shootout, you know, those two dudes, Larry Phillips and Emil Matasaranyu. Like, I've always wondered, how did they meet up? They said that, you know, they met at a gym where they used to work out, and Emil Matasaranyu was like out of work computer technician with a couple of computer science degrees, and Larry Phillips was like a failed fitness instructor or something. But it's like, you know, I always wonder, when you have double trouble criminals, or like those two serial killers in California that was kidnapping people and taking them to this fucking dungeon and then filming themselves murdering people. Who were the motherfuckers? Charles Ng and Leonard Lake. Here you have a Hong Kong born Chinaman that comes to the United States and decides he's into killing people, and somehow he meets up with this white dude that's into the same fucking thing, and they're just up at Leonard's cabin just fucking kidnapping, torturing, raping, and murdering people. But it's like, how do two nutcases find each other like that? I've always wondered that. How do two criminals, unless they were, you know, raised in the same neighborhood or come from the same family, how the fuck do they not only find each other but figure out that they're both into the same sick ass things? Like, seriously, how did this conversation between Nomia Invalu and Nomsa Madao even start? Like, what were they in the break room? It's like, oh hon, what you doing for lunch? Oh, nothing, I'm just gonna have some waffles and coffee and some leftovers I brought out the fridge at home. Oh, okay, I didn't think to grab nothing. I'll sit with you. Okay, sister. Hey, so what you doing tonight when you get off shift? Oh, I just gotta meet with some guys. Ooh, some guys. Sounds raunchy. Oh, do tell. Oh, no, sister. It's not like that. It's for business. Business? What type of business? Oh, it's just related to my life insurance policy that I have out on my husband. Justice, you know, you met him. Oh, yes, Justice. He's a nice man. A beautiful man. You're a lucky woman, sister. Well, you know, things haven't been going all that well. We're not living together anymore, and You just what? Well, he asked for a divorce, and we got divorced, but now he's keeping the kids, and I feel disgraced. He won't even sleep in the same bed with me anymore. Really, sister? I'm sorry to hear that. So, what do you plan to do? Well, I figure he's probably seeing someone else while we're still going through the divorce proceedings. And I just feel like I should be properly compensated for his betrayal. What do you mean properly compensated for his betrayal, sister? Oh, no, sister. I cannot say. We are with the police. It is my business. No. We are friends, sister. You can tell me anything. It will be our secret. Are you sure, sister? Yes, I'm positive. I've been through the exact same thing as you before. As a matter of fact, I might be able to even lend you a little bit of advice. Well, I heard through a little birdie that if my husband, say, were to die prematurely, that I could collect on the life insurance, and whatever is left behind of the money after the funeral and the burial, I could keep for myself and my children and possibly remarry. Ah, sister, you do not know how lucky you are. You are speaking to the right person. You needn't say any more. We will speak more about this after work. Meet me at the Limbosa Cafe on Zini Street at approximately 9 p.m. tonight. Really, sister? You will help me with this thing? But you don't even know. I know, sister. I know. You are speaking in code, yeah? But there are some things you know that do not need to be spoken here. I understand. And believe me, I can assure you, I have much expertise in this field of work. I can get you everything you need. I mean, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on over there in South Africa, bro? Once again, I asked this question earlier in this video, okay? Some of you African niggas gotta please, I mean, poverty, I know there's poverty, but poverty is every goddamn where, okay? These bitches are so fucking diabolical, they're running the fucking hitman off. You know how Nomsa Madow's husband found out that she was trying to set him up to be killed? In February of 2018, after these two motherfuckers had 11 years of marriage, because they met and got married in 2007, he said out of nowhere, he was in his front room and a car pulled up in his driveway and it was some hitmen, okay? The hitmen had come to do him in, but for whatever reason they had a change of heart. They actually sent a friend of theirs out of the car instead of getting out of the car themselves and whacking him for the money, okay? After Involu had set Nomsa, her friend and co-worker at the police station, up with these hitmen, okay? I don't know if they were some of the same hitmen that she used in the killings of her relatives, but she set her up with some hitmen. They had a change of heart and enlisted a friend to get out of the car when they pulled into this man's driveway and go and warn him that there was a hit out on his life. It's like even the black men that are involved in the criminal underworld as hitmen in South Africa have some degree of conscience. It's like, I think what's happening is, it's like, okay, you order one hit, okay, cool, but like, damn, you want to wipe out your whole family? You want to kill not only your sister, but your mama and your sister's 5 kids and your husband of 11 years? Like, damn, you just ordered us last week. Motherfucker, this ain't motherfucking Pizza Hut. This is a 1, maybe 2 time deal. You ordering this shit like you ordering backpacks and Fenty products on fucking Amazon, nigga. Even the hitmen are fucking getting turned off by this shit. They betraying these dumbass bitches. That's how they keep getting caught. So the motherfucking friend of the hitman come up and tell this dude, yo, we was sent here to do you in, bro. Your fucking wife got a contract out on your ass, bro. And now, 4 years later, because shortly after finding out about that, Justice Madow, Nomsa's husband, he separated from his wife. She was arrested shortly thereafter, once the hitman agreed to go to the police with him and file charges, you know, as his witness to file charges against his wife, okay? He said he feared for his life because after her arraignment, initially, before they knew that Involu had anything to do with this, okay, they thought she was just another crazy police bitch on her, acting on her own. It would take 4 years for them to connect Nomia Involu, the family serial killer bitch, to Nomia's contract hit on her husband. But at the time, in February 2018, when she was initially charged, they let her out. They let this crazy ass bitch out on bail, okay? And she actually had the audacity, after trying to put a contract out on her husband, to come back and live in the same house with the man that had divorced her and that she tried to kill, bro. He said him and his children became afraid for their safety. They gave her the house because initially he tried to get police to keep her from coming back to the fucking house. He said he didn't even want to see the bitch. As you might imagine, that would make sense. So when they let the bitch come back to the house, he was like, fuck it. He took the children and went to stay with relatives and let that bitch have the house that they shared for 11 fucking years. Again, man, Hollywood screenwriters cannot make this shit up. And he was doing this interview with this online news outlet, and talking about how this bitch stole his happiness and how everything was going well for about a year into the marriage until late 2008, when she started acting strange and trying to cut him off from his family members and telling him that he shouldn't help them out with like bills and stuff, and it's sounding eerily similar to a lot of the stuff that women claim that men do to them when they're controlling psychopathic types in these relationships that usually have a lot of domestic violence issues. He said he let this bitch cut him off from his own family. And see, incidentally, just as a side note, this is the type of fucked up shit, all of this that we've been talking about, this is what happens when men, not only in individual relationships, but men in just in society, regardless of race, regardless of country, color, creed, regardless of culture, when they allow women to wear their pants. Okay, this is what fucking happens. Okay, I've said before, you have to understand that women are really, outside of the physical inferiority in most cases, a lot of these bitches really are not much different in men in the way they think, and hence thus there's a lot of jealousy and resentment. I've explained this before. There's a lot of jealousy and resentment towards men because the overriding majority of this world was founded, created, developed, revolutionized, and is currently run and controlled by men. Okay, and women have a lot of interpersonal bitterness and jealousy at that. Okay, and what they fail to recognize is that men did not arrive at this point just frolicky dolicky. Okay, men had to fight and bleed and sweat and die to get this world, what we call modernity, the modern world, to where it is today, with skyscrapers and technologically advanced militaries and online shopping applications and cell phone towers that can handle millions of signals, invisible little waves that you can't even see with the naked eye within seconds, and nice homes built on subdivisions in and around every major modern city. There's a certain segment of females that is jealous of the accomplishments of men. Okay, and they will do anything and everything, not only to try and unjustly and undeservingly take a man's place, but hijack and sabotage the accomplishments that men have built. You have bitches that want to break the very foundation of what we call civilization. I guess that's why a lot of you niggas call them agents of chaos. I mean, dude, this shit is insane, bruh. This shit is fucking insane. And the frightening part is, for every one Namia Invalu and Nomsa Madao and the other fucking police bitches that, you've heard me talk about over the course of the last 2-3 hours, whose case gets highlighted in the national and international news, there's probably 100 bitches that have done likewise and either gotten away with it, or their case isn't highlighted in the news because they're nobody special and neither were their victims. How many innocent people, man, woman, and child, have been murdered by domestic partners or co-workers over some petty beef or over some domestic issue or over life and funeral insurance policies. And you know, shit, by this time, guys, I was done with the whole fucking thing. I made a promise to myself. I am not Googling anything else about South African police or any other type of woman bitch killing somebody, because I see that this is just gonna go on and on and on and on. But as I was closing it out, because you know, it was just an information overload. You know how they talk about, you know, getting a drug overdose? At that point, I had a fucking bad information overdose. Had a fucking overload, like fucking Chernobyl or some shit. I was like, okay, I'm clocking out. After this story, we're done. It can't get no worse than this. This bitch has to be one of the most infamous bitches in the history of fucking Africa. My God. And I ain't even religious. But who the fuck can I call on looking at this crazy shit? But just as I was saying that I was done, I found out one more interesting piece of information. Nomia Invalu, the bitch that got 6 life sentences for murdering 5 of her family members and her boyfriend, and conspiring to kill her sister, her own mother, and her sister's 5 children, and helping this other ugly ass police bitch, fucking Nomsa Madao, try to murder her husband in front of his kids 4 years ago. The judge that actually sentenced her to the 6 life sentences after her trial last year in November 2021, Rama Rumo Monama. He was a deputy justice judge out of the Wating division, who presided over her case and sentenced her to, you know, several life sentences. He mysteriously died after what they claimed, quote, was a short illness, only 3 months after giving her her sentence. Now this is interesting because while they didn't specify specifically how he died, there were indicators that it wasn't anything like cancer or something long term. Okay, you know, he was a pretty old dude, but they said that this was a short-term illness, which usually means that the person, they suddenly got sick, and over the course of days, weeks, or perhaps a couple of months, they died from whatever that illness was. Okay, now this is interesting because Nomia, again, we just got done talking about how she took out hits on multiple family members and co-workers and policemen that were even investigating her case. Additionally, I found out that right after she was sentenced, okay, and led away, she turned to the people, like there was like a witness bench of people in the courtroom that had testified behind her when where she was in court, and she indirectly threatened them.
Ouch, ouch,
She said something to the tune of, I'm going to spend this Christmas in jail, but you will see next year this time I'll be out and I'll show you all. And it was like she, you know, the bailiffs grabbed her quickly and, you know, took her out of the courtroom. But she made indirect threats to these people that had testified against her and come to the trial. Okay, so between that indirect threat the fact that she was trying to set up to have more people killed, including her former supervisor and this police detective that was investigating her case. And the motherfucking bitch even tried to kill her own mama. And the fact that one of her victims, one of her early victims, who was actually her sister, her other sister, Audrey Nvolu, was found poisoned and strangled inside the room of a home she was renting in Tembisa in 2013. Okay? So, you know, while it appears they're trying to say that this judge's cause of death was natural, I personally, if it was me in South Africa, just out of an abundance of caution, I would investigate this man's death and make sure that it was just that natural causes. Because a lot of cases, at least here in the United States, when they suspect natural causes, you know, if somebody had, you know, an pre-existing illness or long-term illness, they won't perform an autopsy. They usually only perform an autopsy when foul play is suspected and it's part of some type of criminal probe. But I would, if I was his family for sure, I would order an independent autopsy just to make sure that he didn't get poisoned or something, okay? Because in addition to being a fucking greedy ass, corrupt, evil, dirty bitch, Nvolu, this ugly ass heifer, is also a very bitter and scornful bitch. Not only does she think she should have a right to murder people, she thinks that anybody who gets in her way of that, or is part of the punishment consequence of her committing these crimes, should also be murdered. Again, the bitch threatened witnesses in the courtroom in front of the judge and police, tried to put out a hit on her former superior officer and supervisor and a police detective. Okay? So I wouldn't put it past this bitch to have put out some type of hit, because they never did recover all of the money that she collected from insurance policies. They were just able to trace the money, but they don't know she cashed out a lot of that shit. They don't know what she actually did with it. So while in custody, it could have been that, you know, she set something up. I mean, I saw the way some of those guards were looking at her. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, she was having some type of lesbian affair with some of those fucking jail guards. But anyway, and we already know, considering that she had a partner in crime that was a fucking police bitch, Nomsa Madao, we know that there were other fellow law enforcement officers that think exactly the same way that she did. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other evil, fat, ugly, dirty fucking black bitches over there was conspiring with her to have that judge set up and killed. Now, I'm not going to say that he didn't die of natural causes, but I'm just going to say that's highly eerie, because at the time he died, ironically, this judge, Ramarumo Monama, was actually, ironically, presiding over the other high-profile case that we talked about that went into it went into effect shortly after the conviction and sentencing of this dirty bitch Nomia, the Nathaniel Julies case of Kayleen Whiteboy and those two black idiot fellow officers of hers that killed and tried to cover up the murder of the, you know, mentally handicapped boy with Down syndrome, Nathaniel Julies. He was in the midst of presiding over that case in February of this year when he suddenly died from this quote-unquote short illness. And that was only 3 months after Nomia threatened witnesses and was on trial, and before she actually went on trial back on trial for trying to set up the police detective and her supervisor and Madao's husband to be killed. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if she had somebody slip this dude something, just out of revenge or to make sure that he couldn't preside over no more of her fucking cases. I don't know, man, but this is one of the most fucked up things that I have ever. It's not the most fucked up thing, but it ranks in the top 10 of most fucked up stories that I have ever, or series of stories for sure, that I have ever seen or heard in my fucking life. How can you have this much dysfunction, and not only this much dysfunction, but this much deadly dysfunction in one place? I mean, I thought niggas had it bad over here, but dude, remember how I told y'all at one point when I was young and naive, like maybe 10-15 years ago, I had the mythology in my mind that black Africans from the motherland were somehow more intelligent and more unified than over here, because, you know, at the time I was mesmerized, you know, and misled by all that, you know, Rainbow Nation, Nelson Mandela bullshit. Well, now, knowing the truth about not only South Africa, but the whole of Africa, I'm actually starting to question, like David Carroll said, he questioned if there were actually black bitches during slavery that weren't raped per se, but were actually throwing their pussies at the white massa. I'm actually starting to question if black men, as bad as it was, were actually safer under Dutch apartheid rule than they are now in a so-called free democratic society in South Africa. Because it seems to me like, you know, even when you look back in those days, you know, with, you know, the eerily similar footage of dogs being sicked on protesters and shit in South Africa, it seems to me like the crackers, the Boers, they only kill when they needed to kill to, you know, strike fear inside the niggas. They would much rather just control and keep niggas in their place. But nowadays, it's like, just when it comes to killing black people, especially black men in South Africa, it's just a fucking free-for-all. And this is going on while black people are in authority. Okay? The Dutch, most of them have long left. And it seems like it's worse. It's definitely at least as bad as it was during apartheid. But I'm actually thinking it's far, far worse. It's actually been statistically proven that the crime in South Africa is far worse. But I think the intentional targeting and killing of black men is far worse. Okay? Dude, I thought law enforcement over here was fucked up with hiring these fucking hood whore bitches to have a gun and a badge. But over there, bro, like, the screening process must either be non-existent, or it must be similar to the screening process for hiring a burger flipper at fucking McDonald's when it comes to getting in the South African police service. Cause goddamn, fucking Cardi B could be a cop over there. What the fuck? Man, dude. Put your guns and weave on the table and step away from the PMS slowly. Jesus fucking Christ. It's like fucking Savage Palooza over in that motherfucker. You know, after 2 hours, I'm at a loss for words. The only thing I will say is this. You know what? I'm not even gonna say that. I said enough. This is all I gotta say. If y'all don't understand why I say Marlboro for life, then just die then, motherfucker. Marlboro for life. I'm out.